Well, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
And happy Thursday evening to you. Today is July the 22nd, and it is 7 p.m. We're here at 901 Main Street in the Assembly Hall in the heart of Old Town Conyers. And thank you for all of you all for coming out tonight. I'm Chairman Nesbitt. I'm calling the meeting to order, and we will start at this time with the invocation. And I'm going to ask that, Chief Cade would lead us in a word of invocation. Chief Cade.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to assemble here tonight to hear the public hearing and hear the concerns of our citizens, while also hearing the presentation from our planning and development staff. Please help all ears to be open tonight to hear everything that's being presented, and please help our commissioners to hear the people's concerns and to carry out the business of our county. We ask that you please be with everyone tonight as we go through this process, and help all hearts and ears to be open to what's being presented. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioners, I won't prolong our meeting. I think we've got a robust meeting tonight, but I will just take a point of privilege to say that one of the beautiful things of living in America, and certainly the state of Georgia and Rockdale County, that we can open our business meetings up with a word of prayer. I think that always sets the tone, and I'm just honored to be able to serve in a community that still allows that to take place. At this time, we'll have the approval of the agenda. Commissioners?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
I second the motion.
It's been properly motioned and seconded. Are there any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carry. Approval of the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes from May 25th.
I second that motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. Are there any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right. All right, this time.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The public comment procedures. Each speaker must sign their name to the appropriate zoning case sheet and fill out a public comment card to register your intent to speak prior to the start of this meeting. Each item of business will be handled in the order that it appears on the agenda, unless upon a motion of the Board of Commissioners the order is changed. A member of the county planning staff will present each item to the Board of Commissioners. The zoning applicant or the agent will state their name and address at the microphone and will have 10 minutes in which to make his or her presentation. Any portion of their 10 minutes may be reserved for rebuttal, following the opposition to the applicant. After the applicant's presentation, all registered speakers who wish to speak in favor of the application will be heard. The Secretary will call all speakers by name in the order of persons attending. They will be limited to a total of 10 minutes. Once the applicant has made his or her presentation, the speakers in favor of the application have been heard. The Secretary will then call upon the registered speakers in opposition to the application. Once the public hearing portion is closed, no other speakers will be heard. After all public comments have been heard, the board may elect to hold general discussion. However, no decisions will be rendered at this hearing. Decisions will be made at the next regularly scheduled Board of Commissioners meeting.
Thank you so much. Thank you for those rules. And I do just want to reiterate that no decision will be made tonight. This is an opportunity, as he stated, for the commissioners and I to process the information that is presented to us tonight. There is no old unfinished business, and we will move right on to new business. Director Johnston, Director of Planning and Development.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening.
Madam Commissioners. As you just stated, we have a pretty robust agenda tonight. Let's get started. And our first item for tonight will be, okay. Pardon me.
Coming out to check.
First item will be 0 Salem Road, Southeast Conyers, 30013. It's a future land use map case 2021-04. And this is also a future land use as well as a rezoning case, 2021-06. Future land use is to amend the future land use map to redesignate property from mixed-use employment center to medium-density residential. And the rezoning is to rezone from neighborhood commercial / mixed-use / civic institutional to mixed-use residential. The applicant is Buckingham Investments LLC, applicant Battle Law. And without saying more here, this item, the applicant has requested that this could be continued to the August public hearings, so they can actually do some more coordinating with the public. And so this item needs to be continued.
All right.
All right, next item, 1774-1806 Flat Shoals Road, Conyers, Georgia. Future land use map case 2021-05. A request to amend the future land use map to redesignate property from low-density residential / agriculture to high-density residential. It's also a rezoning case 2021-07 to rezone the property from R1 residential to RM multifamily residential. Owner is Carolyn Williams and William Hogan. Inline Communities is the applicant. This particular item will require 2 public hearings, and 2 motions are required for this, one for the future land use amendment and one for the rezoning. The purpose of this is to develop a single-family attached townhome neighborhood. Details: this site is 43.95 acres, 145 single-family attached homes, 86 proposed to be front-loaded and 859 rear-loaded. The density will be 3.3 units per acre. 45 overflow parking spaces for this proposal, and all are proposed to have 2-car garages. Staff's recommendation for this was approval with the conditions that I'll read shortly. Planning Commission recommendation for this was denial due to the size of the project and the amount of traffic along Flat Shoals Road.
Excuse me, Director Johnson, I'm sorry to interrupt. Our technical staff has asked if you could please step closer to the microphone so that the overflow seating can hear your voice.
Very good.
Thank you so
Chief.
much.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you very much. Okay, no problem. Will do. Okay, moving along. Here we have aerials of the location. As you see, the red X indicates where we are downtown. The green indicates the actual site. Now, again, staff, we recommend approval with conditions. Some of the conditions indicate back from March of this year: street design, guiding layout, water quality detention area. The site should be restricted to no more than 145 townhomes with the permitted uses. We mentioned earlier the 2-car garages. That's a condition that staff would like to see. And the balconies, building elevations, covenant conditions, restrictions. These are items that are pretty consistent with most of the townhome requirements that we have here in the county. And contingent upon a approval, there shall be no request made for any annexation for 30 years from the date of the actual approval. Again, final plat shall alert purchasers of the need for, to be aware of when you have residential areas close to non-residential, industrial, and or commercial, There will be noises and other issues that are commonly associated with non-residential development, so they will know this before they actually at the purchasing time. Other conditions, 5-foot wide concrete sidewalks throughout, 10-foot landscape strip provided within Flat Shoals Road, internal streets 24-foot wide from face of curb, and any private alley shall be 18 feet in width. Again, driveways, minimum 18-foot wide, solid grass, utilities will be underground, amenity areas shall be accessible for all the 5-foot sidewalks throughout the development, street lights shall be provided, and there was a traffic impact study provided for this 43.95 acre site. And any recommendations obviously will be refined at the LDP stage of this process. The applicant actually had some other 5 additional conditions. Amenity areas shall include minimum green space, walking trails, swimming pool, cabanas, and a dog park, a 50-foot transitional buffer between the project and the adjacent Terry Lane properties. And I want to make note that they did reach back out, have some conversation with the residents in putting together these 5 additional conditions. Let's see. Per the traffic study, they want to provide a left turn lane at the full access driveway along Flat Shoals Road for the proposal, and also reserving right-of-way for any future widening and expansion of Flat Shoals Road. And finally, donating woodlands and open space if requested by the Board of Commissioners prior to the final plating for this particular proposal. Commissioners, this concludes the staff's presentation for this particular item. Any questions?
Who did the traffic study?
A&R Engineering, Commissioner Williams.
And how were they chosen to do it?
I would have to defer to the applicant on that particular item. I think they had selected those individuals.
The applicant chose that?
Yeah, I will defer to them when they come up for their Q&A for that one. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Could you go back to the woodlands being,
Listen.
yes, but that means that we would take, if we ask, then we would take over the open spaces?
But they would donate some, I guess, if the county requested prior to the finalizing of the plat.
So that means it would be for, if we decide not to do anything, there would forever be an open space type area.
Basically, if they donate that to the county, yes, ma'am.
Could you go back to the streets, the widen, I think you said it was 25 foot?
24 feet from all internal streets, 24 feet wide.
Okay. Is that adequate to make sure that emergency personnel can
Yes, ma'am.
come in and out of the project?
Yes, ma'am.
And for the parking, you said it's a 2-car garage?
Right, 2-car garages and 45 overflow parking. Let's see, 45 overflow spaces, yes, ma'am.
45 for 100 and how many units?
145.
And so the contingency that it can't be annexed for 30 years, we're talking about the city cannot annex it for 30 years, is that
Yes,
what
ma'am.
that means?
And
That's F.
So, and I had that same question. Where did that time frame come from, Director? Who came up with the number of years?
That was, I need to get back to you on that particular item. I think that was actually, yeah, I'll have to get back to you on that one, not sure. If that was staff generated or, I'm sure, yeah, let me get back to you on that one.
Couple more questions.
Sure.
The quality of the facades or the face of the materials that the units would be constructed with, I would, very concerned.
Okay, item, let's see.
I didn't see anything that designated what the facades needed to be.
Perhaps the applicant can shed light on that when they talk about the type of materials that's used to construct. I think we can get that then, Commissioner.
'Cause I think that's one thing we want to have included.
And there is a presentation, some slides that they had submitted as well during their portion of the Q&A, so they do have some additional presentation material.
Okay.
Okay.
And you said that there's,
So, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, maybe we should have the applicant present, and I think that what the director is saying is that when the applicant does their presentation, a lot of these questions about the aesthetics and the way it may look might answer some of those as well.
Commissioners, are you all fine with that? I think that would clear up a lot. Thank you, Director, and we go ahead and, are we in order now to go ahead and call up the applicant at this point? Very good. Thank you so much.
Kenneth Wood, 350 Research Court, Peachtree Corners, Georgia. Do we have the presentation?
And Kenneth, if you would just name the actual company that you represent, we certainly
Yes,
appreciate
so
it.
Inline Communities LLC.
Yes, sir, just for the
would
record.
Be the owner of the project.
Thank you.
And let me make sure, do I just keep clicking over and it'll start? Sweet, okay, that's awesome. Okay, it makes it so easy. So I wanted to make sure I'm able to kind of.
You know, technology is tricky. You know how tricky technology can be.
Oh, I'm telling you.
Absolutely.
I never know. I'll be like, click, 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 going on. So I wanted to make sure, are you guys able to see what we're seeing up on the?
We are.
I wanted to be able to make sure as we're going. So obviously, as you guys know, we're flat shoals and you have Salem that comes down. You know, what really intrigued us about this property when we first started, we went out there, it's been probably like 8 months ago when we first started looking at it. We walked out there and it's a beautiful piece of property. And that's what got us is, you know, what we're going to present tonight is it's a green community. And I really want to instill what that means to you guys as we go through it. And so it's also in the right place. You know, everything that you have coming down Salem, you have different type of multifamily with some of it is age restricted, some of it is not. And then as you come around the corner, this is kind of that next piece that's sitting there that's ready. And on the whole western side of it, there's no neighbors. It's a vast amount of trees that run through it. And then we have a buffer for the neighbors on the east that I'll talk through. And so it's just the right track. And I really want to talk through about how we were able to make that function for the plan. This is kind of a blow up so you can kind of see what I was talking about. You have the different projects on Salem as you come through and you go down and you intersect with the roadway. This also shows Courtesy Parkway. And I have Abdul Amir with A&R here tonight, and so we selected him. The amount of experience he has in this area, the amount of studies he's done, he really has a good idea. He was able to find additional documents on Courtesy Parkway as well. But the way that will come down and intersect, you know, it's really a reliever. You know, it's not to add more traffic, it's to relieve, you know, as people are trying to get to this area and get to other parts of the area. And it just happens that this property is positioned so well for the future of that parkway that it really makes sense. And so as you're looking up here, you can also see how close Springfield is to us as well. We are looking at having our trails to be able to connect into the back so that if you are going to church there or some type of dinner service or anything that they may be having, you're actually able to walk, which you know, there's really not so many properties that are good properties that you're able to take on foot and get where you need to go. So we thought that would be a pretty amazing amenity to have here. And so this is kind of the plan, and we kind of blew up what we were looking at to be able to show you guys, and you can actually see kind of where that parkway skirts along the property and where it ties in just across. And then we have the elementary school just across from us, which kind of brings us to another point. When we walked out there and we started walking the property, you come across the hill, when you come from Salem, you start dropping down the hill. And that's one of the reasons our first driveway is right in, right out, because, you know, looking back up the hill, it's a little more limited. So for safety, that's right in. Then as you go further down to our second entrance, that would be the full access, where we'll have sidewalks along our whole frontage, and not just the developed frontage. The property is deceiving. You know, it's almost 45 acres. And the property runs all the way down through that green strip. And so that sidewalk would connect that entire frontage. And so that runs right down to where the edge of the school is. And so what's exciting to us when we walked it was we were able to realize that you would be able to walk out of your front door, walk down to the front, and walk down literally about 700 feet, and then you could safely cross the street and be able to get to the elementary school if you wanted to walk the kids to school instead of driving. And so it's a cool concept. It's something you don't see very often unless you have, built up communities where the school's in the center, but you can actually walk to the school just like the subdivision, which is Mission Ridge, just to the west. They're able to walk to school as well if they so desire. And so this is the slide I really want to get to and really talk about the plan and what kind of intrigued us. The requirement for open space roughly calculates the 400 square feet roughly to about 3.1% of the site. And so you do see a lot of townhome sites where you take a certain amount of acreage and you kind of put them in, and there's not many amenities available to them. And then that is not this project. And so this project is the total opposite. So what we're trying to sell on this is really a lifestyle, because this is a lifestyle by choice, but it's a really lifestyle by choice that gets you a green community that's different. We think it's very different than anything else of the townhome communities that you've seen. And so if you look at the total property, you have just the 46 acre site, 27 of that, which is 61%, 27% of that is green space. And so there's green space inside the developed area where we have the back-to-back, that's almost 70 feet apart where the townhomes back-to-back. We have a large centralized amenity area where you have a cabana, you have a pool area, you have a dog park. You're also going to have different games, fire pits that we have there, and I'll walk you guys through that. But then you also have this entire vast area. And so as you get down toward the creek, yes, there is floodplain along that creek. And so just to clarify, one of the questions that came up is when you're talking about open space, is the reason we wrote that condition in there is in a lot of different places, different counties, different cities have different agendas about open space. And so since we do have some floodplain, we know there's a lot of counties that want to own the floodplain. For whatever reason, they want to have the floodplain there. And so that condition was put in there if that is the case. If not, what we want to do is give all that land to the HOA, because the HOA will control that entire vast area, and our plan is to put walking trails through it. So if you go out there today, it's very different. It's not that there's a really steep slope down and then you get to the bottom and you kind of fall all the way down and then you're in the creek. This is very flat. Once you get past that area down into the bottom, it's very flat and vast with trees. And so our vision is to put the trail connection up to the top, but also put trails all through that area. And so that gives us the ability to literally have, whether it's biking or walking, be able to have both of those because it's flat enough to do it. It's also flat enough to be able to jog in and out of the good trees and not have to take down significant trees, so it does feel like that walk. And so that gives us an actual green community where someone was going to come in here and buy, because they not only get a great unit, which I'm going to describe, we're really pushing a very high-end product, but they're also going to get 27 acres of open space, which even in most subdivisions you're not going to be able to see. And so they have a lock and go concept in the unit type that we want to do, which is basically there's no maintenance. There's no maintenance to paint the house. The HOA would control that. There's no maintenance on the roof. The HOA would control that. The HOA would control the grounds so that it's always cut, it's always manicured, it's not something that's going to fall with that. But at the same time, they can go out into a 27-acre park. And that's the vision. We want to have the amenities that's embedded in here, and then we all want to have the passive amenities. And that's what we're looking at with the plan. As you go through, we've had a lot of different conversations as we reached out. This was the plan that we are conditioning to. And like, why does it do that? Like literally your iWatch will just like start talking to you. And so we really want to push exactly what we're looking at. And this would be the slide that goes along with that condition that was talked about in the additional ones we put it forward. And so this is against Terry Lane on our right-hand side, which is our east side. And this would be a 50-foot replanted. Now, if there's existing trees there we're within that, we can have those, but a lot of places it's sparse, and so we'd be replanting evergreens. And so we tried to depict different type of evergreens that our landscape architects thought were really good evergreens that will survive. They can deal with canopy. And then also what's called a good neighbor fence, which it's a really nice fence, and it's built so that the nicest side is toward the neighbor, hence the name for that. And so that goes with the condition that we showed. Kind of talking through the different quality as we're looking to rezone this. is the amenities and pool. We want to make very high-end. The dog park, you can kind of see in the bottom left, that's an example of what we're looking at for the dog park. So every type of amenity is on the higher end. The pool's very upscale, has a lot of place where you can hang out, whether you have the sun shelf or you want to go back toward the cabana, fire pits that are around. And then the top right, we put this one in here to kind of give you an example of when you have a flat enough piece of land, you're actually able to create that trail through the woods. And not just a trail that kind of I call the mountain bike trails where they go up, on the hills, but it's flat enough that we can actually create the passive trails like there in the photo. And so these are the photo of the homes. All of the material, and we can condition it, all the material is substantial material. Looking at a mixture, board and bat, brick, stone, stucco, and cementitious siding. And so that would be up, and there's no type of siding that would be any type of a cheaper material or anything like that. Everything that we're looking at is to be high end. Our units are looking to be in the 3s, and so for townhomes we're really pushing up, and we think this area is a really great area and that price points can be pushed up for the townhomes coming in here. This is some different examples. We have a mixture on the site, and so when you're looking at our site plan, we have a mixture. We have rear-loaded units and we also have front-loaded units, and we have them dispersed all throughout. Now if you're driving down the road, you will see the rear-loaded units, but also as you go interior, we have additional rear-loaded units. We're not quite at 50-50, but we're more like 40-60 split between the two. But all the units, whether they are rear-loaded with an alley, and technically our alleys in this community are wider, we have them a little bit wider, but they are all 2-car garages. And then we have the space in the driveway for another 2 cars, but then we also have additional parking for guests as well, and I'll show you guys that. Interior is all high-end finishes, hardwoods, all of the different, whether it's quartz or corian or whatever the tops end up going for, but everything high-end so that everything is a very nice finish so that we can hit the price points that we're looking to hit. And these are some examples of interior finishes that we have proposed in these communities. As we go to some of the different ones, there was a couple of slides I wanted to show you guys just to talk about, the housing shortage. And we always get in the conversation about the townhomes. And so there's really not, when you're looking, there's really not very much housing inventory. I think at the last presentation, we talked about running I think the realtor for the area, and there was hardly anything available, in terms of what you can actually get. And so really trying to fill that need in terms of housing, and fill that need in terms of housing, in terms of something where you can go, don't have to worry about the maintenance, but you get a 27-acre park as part of what you're buying. And so you're buying into an experience and something very different. And as we talked about, these are the 300,000. We kind of estimated what the different payments would be, and that the way we see it is that it's a very good fit for the area, and everything would really fit in well with what we're trying to do with the green community. This slide is essentially from what you guys looked at from your planning department approval with conditions. There's not any conditions that we are not agreeable to. We are agreeable to all the conditions, including the additional conditions or any modifications that we had. This was kind of our process. We had reached out. We had a meeting going through here with Mission Ridge. We also mailed out letters to Terry Lane. We also offered several different times to have different meetings, and up to the last at the Planning Commission, additional requests that we would be open to meeting with anyone. And then we also met with Springfield Baptist to get a feel for exactly what they were looking for, how the project can work together, and how that connection could be here. And then we have kind of the future land use map, and while we feel like everything is touching up against where you're coming over from Old Salem and how it's fitting. And then I'm going to bring up Abdul so he can run through the traffic part of it, but kind of wanted to leave this slide so you can actually see on the black and white site plan. It actually does it even more justice to me than the color plan about, it shows the entrances, but it really shows that vast area. You can see how far the stream is from the units, and so that whole area from the dark lines from the units, that is all that flat area where the trails would be. And so that is the open space that we are selling on this. And with that, I'll bring up Abdul so he can run through the back one.
One more.
That one, awesome.
On you. Move forward.
So to the right and to the left.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Board of Commissioners. My name is Abdul Mayor. I am with traffic engineer with A&R Engineering. My firm has been engaged by the applicant to conduct a traffic impact study. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Georgia and also a certified professional traffic operations engineer. This is my bread and butter. This is what I do. I have 38 years of experience doing this type of work. And the study that we conducted looked at the corridor of Flat Shoals Road. We studied, it was a very detailed traffic impact study. We looked at 7-8 intersections in the corridor, all the way from West Iris Drive to Mission Ridge Drive, including the driveways to the school during the school hours as well. And our traffic impact study and its recommendations have been submitted to the county staff as your director presented in the staff recommendations, that they have accepted the traffic impact study and its recommendations and require that the improvements recommended in the study be are conditioned on the project. I'll go a little bit in more details of how we go about, have been doing studies during the last year to even now with COVID circumstances. So we go out and do traffic counts as we do for any study during the AM peak hour, afternoon rush hour, in this case, the school afternoon peak as well. And then we also do, in addition to those counts, some counts at a location where we have historic data, pre-COVID. For example, in this case, just to the west of this location, there was a Georgia DOT counter. So we had counts there. So we go back and recount that location, compare it to the pre-COVID data, and see how different it is. In this case, we found that the morning counts that we did were 30% less than what they should have been. And that's been kind of our experience last year, year and a half. So we then increased the counts we did by 30% in the morning rush hour, and then analyzed that. That would have been the normal count. So we adjusted for it, and then we also took into account the proposed project that Courtesy Parkway is tying in there, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So you can see in the red line there to the west of the side, right across from Mission Ridge Drive, Courtesy Parkway is supposed to connect north-south to the north of I-20. So on the first glance, we might think, oh my God, there's a new road coming in, it's going to dump a lot of traffic here. And it's a natural reaction. And I did projects in the vicinity of this area, just to the north end of Courtesy Parkway. I did another traffic study there for a project you all approved not too long ago, and I'm working on several others in the county right now. And with my experience, the whole purpose of this project, connecting north-south to Flat Shoals, is really, and this is the widening project plans, northeast to the right here, is essentially to provide alternative connections and opportunities for traffic to move around rather than dumping all traffic at some congested bottleneck locations. For example, in this case, if you're, say, a resident of Mission Creek, and say you want to go to the north of I-20 to somewhere in that area to shop, to work, whatnot, your only choice right now is to go east on Flat Shoals, turn on Salem Road, cross I-20, head to the north. And you have no other easy north-south connections between the two interchanges on I-20. This particular Courtesy Parkway connection will provide you that opportunity. Matter of fact, it's supposed to have a positive impact on this particular section of Flat Shoals by taking off some of those trips that would otherwise be traveling here to head to the interchange, go north on Salem Road. Now they can just avoid this area, this section, school and frontage of this property, and just go north-south there. So there are some benefits there, but that's a project scheduled to happen 2024, 2025, and county and everybody's working very hard to make that happen. I think it'll bring some relief to the area. Now, the school itself, we've studied that, has long deceleration lane at the eastern driveway, which is the parent pickup drop-off location. The western driveway to the school is a bus driveway, and they do have an acceleration lane as well. What they don't have is a left turn lane. So if you're headed west, they're standing in the through lane, blocking some of the traffic, unfortunately. It's something that I think we will help indirectly, because the western driveway to this particular project, we have recommended they widen the road to install a left turn lane, so they don't do what the school is doing to Flat Shoals Road. So we'll pull all the traffic entering at that western full access driveway to pull into the left turn lane that they will build, but widening Flat Shoals Road so that the eastbound through traffic is not blocked. And so what it does is, when you widen the road, you have to extend the widening for some distance before you tie back the through lanes. And that sets the stage, in my mind, for future provision of hopefully another left turn lane for the school. So kind of half the work will be done by this project. If the county and the school can work together, they can hopefully in the future come together with some project to add a short left turn into the school, so the flow will really be much, much smoother than what it is today. So I see an opportunity. Transportation improvements often don't just come all together, they come in bits and pieces. You have to take them as they come and then build upon them. So I think that's an opportunity here. The amount of traffic this particular project generates is less than 60 in an hour. I'm talking total people entering or leaving during the worst hour of the day. What does that mean? 1 car a minute. 1 car a minute. And now that's total. You have 2 driveways, split that up. So that's like 30 cars, 1 car every 2 minutes. Split that up into entering and exiting. Now you're talking about 1 car in 4 minutes, either entering or exiting each of the 4 driveways. It's really a drop in the bucket for the amount of traffic you have on Flat Shoals Road already. So my conclusion in the study was that they need to put a deceleration lane at both the driveways, and they need to put a left turn lane at the full access driveway. Of course, they're dedicating they're reserving land for future widening of Flat Shoals Road by widening to install the left turn lane and set the stage for improving school left turn hopefully in the future, and providing the sidewalk for pedestrian walkability along their frontage almost up to the school. All of these things I think will end result not have negative impact on traffic, but instead they will make so many improvements that will have a positive impact on the operations on Flat Shoals Road. With that, I'll conclude and be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, start with Commissioner Washington.
I don't have any questions about the traffic. I'm clear with the traffic. I do have a couple of questions about the project as a whole. You said that you had conversations with Springfield. What was the outcome of those conversations?
Sure, I could probably ask Brian to come up. He was actually in there.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Brian Harrison. I work for Inline Communities, 1776 Peachtree Street. I apologize, Brian Yusoff, who's the head of Inline, is not able to be in attendance. He's actually, his son graduated from high school and is getting ready to start college, so they're on a family trip, trying to get that one last trip in. So Brian and I have met with the Springfield Baptist Church on multiple occasions, talking about a potential connection point trail system that connects our project with their church and also the park and ride facility. They have been open to those discussions, and it sounds like if the project were to proceed, we would be able to work with them in that aspect of it. So the discussions have been very positive.
Thank you.
And that's with Pastor Lee and then the operations director as well.
Thank you. The other question that I had is not about Springfield, but you said that you all said that you all had conversations with the Mission Ridge community?
So throughout the whole process, we submitted this application in March, and due to some issues with not having advertisements going out, we've been delayed multiple times, but from the very onset, we abided by the Rockdale County advertising, so that a sign was posted on the property, mailers were mailed to everyone within a certain vicinity, and there was a legal posting in the article in the newspaper. We have also, in that time, reached out to Mission Ridge via their HOA president, and we've had both a Zoom meeting and we've entertained additional meetings. Those requests have been unsuccessful. We've given the opportunity for that to happen. We'd be more than happy. We offered to meet on a cul-de-sac, but we were not able to do that. We've also mailed letters to everyone on Terry Lane on Inline's behalf, and all our property owners requesting that meeting. I've spoken with a resident on Terry Lane on four separate occasions throughout the process. It's been very cordial. His concern is traffic. So we're trying to fight that as best we can with the traffic data that we have, and we feel like we're at a good point with understanding the traffic counts to date.
Thank you. One of the issues, one of the amenities that you said it's going to be a green community. When we were in DC this past week, those were the buzzwords, green community. So could you explain what you all mean by green community?
Sure. And so when you, let me get it back over to
That was my
a
question.
better plan.
I'm sorry.
I don't like those buzzwords either.
And so,
Well, no,
when you think about a green community, there's a lot of different islands. There's heat, like how much impervious to the whole site is there. So this site by nature of the design, and the great thing about this site is that we happen to find a site that has a ton of unusable area up at the top. So it just adds, in addition to the green space, it adds that additional green space that we would not have if it was not there. So you have 27 acres of additional green space. So our footprint, whether it's a carbon footprint, whether it's a heat island footprint, our footprint is extremely small compared to almost any project I've seen in a long time. We're 61% in terms of how much open space that is. And that doesn't include internal little islands and everything. This is probably more like 65. And so looking at that plan, but in addition to that, our stormwater management is green infrastructure. And so it will be green infrastructure. It will be water quality, it will be runoff reduction, it will be stormwater management. It will also be, which is basically because we have such a flat, vast area, we're able to capture something that is not that common. And so there are water quality features that you can use in your community where you can discharge water even after you treated it once and let it span across a flat area. And in the Atlanta metro, that just doesn't we have so much topography, it's very rare to let that happen. And it's basically a natural filter strip is what it's called. And so we have the stormwater part of it, and then we have the green walking trails. And so those would be sustainable walking trails. So those would be mulch or some type of fines that doesn't hurt the environment that would run through the entire process. Now the homes we're talking about building are all cementitious material. We talked about whether it's cementitious hardy, whether it's board and bat, whether it's cementitious shake, stone, brick. And so all of those are sustainable materials. And then the homes themselves will be the latest energy code, which meets basically it's all the way up to the latest Energy Star and everything that you have. And then the homes itself are going to be very high end. And so all that together, when you purchase a home here, and this is what got us when we walked in, and Brian can attest to this, is when you walk the site, you realize that if someone purchases a home here, they have their active amenities, which different complexes would have. We're proposing very high-end active amenities, but the one thing that not many have is we have a 27-acre park, and we also have the ability to connect over to a parking ride and a really large church. And so those are things I don't get to see a lot in communities, in addition to you're literally a short walk down to a school. And so those are just cool amenities where if you buy there, you're not paying, the extra for that, but that is part of what you get for buying here. And so that's why we see it as a green community, because of all those features, and it just makes it very different, because most sites that you see do not have that much land that can be set aside. And so it's just part of the way the land works and the way we stumbled on to what we think is a great piece.
I have one more question.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It better not be mine.
The overflow for parking is,
Yes.
There's only 45 units. Is there any way that we can get more?
We can definitely get more. So I never know, like it's, I always go off of a third based on other town communities we do, and that's what I was kind of going for here, but I have plenty of room. Like if you wanted to get it up to, whether it was 40%, 50%, we definitely have room if you have a certain, money in mind, amount in mind that we can get to. We definitely can easily get more parking on this.
Okay, I'm done.
Commissioner?
So I'm glad I was really waiting to hear about the buildings themselves and the green
yes.
aspects of that. So I think you've answered that, or did you have some other things to add to that?
No, I just wanted to make sure you guys knew, because there's actually a condition. I know y'all were talking about it before when I was listening to staff's presentation, and there is a I think it's D. I think it's, D is the zoning, is the condition D, I believe, and it talks about the elevations we submitted and that they show the substantial material. So I just wanted to make sure we answered your question about the materials are all substantial. They're not anything, you know, of a negative connotation.
So what's the sizes, the square footage of each townhome?
Sure. I believe the minimum is 1,650 to 1,800, and then up from there, and then they go up above 2,000?
Yeah, they can be, I think, 3 to 4 bedrooms, 3 at the minimum, and you have an option for a 4th as well, so.
And so you have that range,
For that 3.
because I think you have the rear loaded, which may be that average, and then you have the front loaded, which is more front loaded than rear, that go up to that larger square footage. And so you have different penetrations with the different types, and so it gives a different variety of what someone could purchase within the community.
And so, what do you anticipate the HOA fees to be?
So, trying to keep the HO fees at a good amount, one that a homeowner can sustain and not be too impactful on their budget. We ideally target somewhere below $200 a month. So that includes all the maintenance for your exteriors, all the maintenance for the amenities being the pool, cabana, dog park, and then the mulch trails. Those will all be maintained by the HOA.
And then my last question is, do we have a timeline for widening Flat Shoals? And I'm not sure who can answer that, but...
Abdul might be able to answer some of that, but we know the right-of-way right now is being acquired, and then it goes to the next step. And I want to say the construction is supposed to be completed in 2024.
And just before he does, I want to go back to one of the questions the commissioner had. How often would the $200 for the HOA?
That's monthly, so it'd be 150 to 200, and that's sort of in line with what HOA fees have been.
Okay, so, and what is the overall price point for these units, per unit roughly?
So
what's the range?
Yeah, we're thinking they base around 275 to 300, and then with the options, they'll go kind of probably in the low 300s, and that's with if you get the option for the 4th bedroom and some features in the kitchen that aren't standard, or other or the bathroom as well.
And keeping in mind with the HOA, with the fees, you know, one thing that's so important is to have enough residents so that those HOA fees are substantial, so that you can, I mean, with this being pristine, with that much amenity, that much walking trail, you need the volume to be able to maintain that, because that's the key, is maintaining it. Do you want to answer about the flat
Yeah, so my comment is, 150 to 200 a month is $2,000, $2,400 a year. But if you don't have to take care of the lawn, if you don't have to worry about the exterior of your building, that pays for it right there.
Plus, all the amenity furniture will be replaced on probably an every 2 to 3 year basis as well. So that's all taken care of.
Well, let me just say, because my questioning about the HOA fee and the price point for the units, when I think about Rockdale County as a whole, I'm thinking about the kind of people we're going to attract in a place like this. And when you talk about a $275 to $300,000 unit, you're going to eliminate the wrong kind of people right there with that price point. And now you're talking $150 to $200 per month for an HOA. Again, you get more a professional grade type folks who are interested in future planning with homes and the right type of residents that are coming into the community. So that's a concern, and that's a positive thing, I will say, in terms of the price point. I'm still interested to hear from folks that's going to be in that community.
I'm sorry, I know I said I had a last, but did I not see where the rental was capped at 5%?
That's correct, yes. So that just gives us the flexibility if someone moves. It's not a rental community. It's
right
for that certain circumstance.
Okay.
Commissioner?
I think he was going to talk about the widening.
Project, yes, sir. The project for Courtesy Parkway, which will tie into Flat Shoals, is scheduled to be completed 2024. And with it will come some intersection improvements on Flat Shoals at Mission Ridge Drive, where it ties across from it. As far as the widening of Flat Shoals Road itself is concerned, it's kind of been in planning stages for the county. I could not find a specific timing or schedule for its widening, but it's just in planning right now. I think the funding and all that has not been worked out yet. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that would be, you know, the meshing and timing of all of that would be important to relieve extra traffic on that road. You'd want that left turn lane and those deacceleration lanes in that widened.
Yeah,
road.
the amount of widening we're doing, we're basically, most of our entire frontage, we're widening for all the turn lanes we're coming in. And the other thing too, that's hard to you know, with the way development and permitting is, it's gotten so hard in materials and just everything is, you know, we're not talking about being able to go vertical on the very first home for several years. And so it's already 21. And so by the time this build out, you know, occurs, it is up into the, you know, 2025. And so that's the one thing to keep in mind is it takes a long time for these to actually come to fruition.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, we do have people signed up to speak tonight, and so the planning staff will begin calling on them, and we will set a timer. It's my understanding this particular item is 2 applications, so we'll have 20 minutes.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Come on up, Director.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we have 4 individuals that have signed up for public comment, and all 4 are in opposition. We have, first individual is Dennis McCann.
Thank you.
Commissioners, I don't have all the PhDs, but I got 43 years of residency at the end of Merle Drive, and I want to counter one thing. They said they talked to everybody, notified everybody. There's not a single person on Merle Drive that got notification of anything, any meeting, any time. So I wanted to qualify that first.
What street?
Merle Drive,
Myrtle?
M-E-R-L-E.
M-E-R-L-E.
Merle
Merle.
Drive.
Okay.
There's a cul-de-sac. And I'd like to first talk about, if I could, the traffic situation.
Yes, sir.
Because there's 2 topics that's really important, traffic and water. When they build this out, they're talking about, the plans I've seen anyway, before all the real big widening of flat shoals, they're talking about their turn lanes and all this. The turn lanes are going to stop about 10 inches before Merle Drive. There's going to be a traffic light down there at the school, a 1/10 of a mile from there. I will never, ever get out of Merle Drive making a left-hand turn. There's just no way. That 1/10 of a mile is about 5 or 6 car lengths. That traffic light goes, it's backed up all the way. I'll never turn. I can turn to the right, but I'll never turn to the left.
Well, I know exactly where your street is, exactly where it is. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'm glad somebody does. And, I mean, they're talking about, this is kind of pre-widening. Now, the real widening, like I said, way down the road, everybody there has got that discomfort on flat shoals. They're trying to squeeze in all these people into a very small, short distance on Flat Shoals Road. We've already got building, if you go up the road a little bit, turn, you know, where it comes around toward the expressway. There's one section there that's being completed. I don't know, I don't have any numbers, but it looks like it's going to be probably 200 or 300 people there. And right across the road from there is one that has just finished, that I'm sure is probably full by now. It's probably going to hold at least half that many. So we got all these people coming from there to Flat Shoals. And we have suggested in the transportation planning meetings, why don't they end the bridge right there on that road and dump the traffic there, keep it off of that part of Flat Shoals and come around right through all that other stuff and to a traffic light that already exists. They won't have to pay for a traffic light. They've already got a road there, but it seems to go nowhere. They want to put it on flat shoulders. And it's just not built for it. There's not enough room. And they talking about, well, it's going to relieve traffic. It's not going to relieve traffic. Yeah, everybody in that area is going to be scrambling to get on that. Plus, there's already, since they've opened that area up a little bit, tractor trailers coming in there now. You can't get around because the tractor trailers in there. What are they going to do that? And these road counts, I know he's a professional, but I saw where he put those counters. He put the counter almost down at the end of Merle Drive. Like he's going to count how many people come down Merle Drive. Well, he's left out over half the people because the counter was halfway down the road. So I question what he did there. But I don't know how to explain it if you've never been through that part of Flat Shoals, especially when school's going. And everybody brings that up and they say, well, we always run into school problems. Well, they may, but I don't want to run into any more of them. There is no place for people to go there. We're already picking up traffic from the east and from the west now because people want to avoid going over, those two bridges, 138 and Salem Road. They're trying to avoid the 138 and go down to the Salem to cross. Well, we're picking up that transfer truck traffic there now. So it's not like you can go out there and look at traffic for 10 days and know what's going on. I can tell you with my 43 years, I can tell you what's going on.
So, I bet you can.
And another topic, though, is water. And this is the one that scares me to death. I live on the end of Merle Drive. That road is going to be just off my backyard. They're going to be on the other side of that road. Right now, in rainstorms, I have at least 4 inches of water in my front yard. And right beside my house is a big culvert and thing that just dump all the water right down there. You think it held it, it comes up right to the brim. And it's actually getting close to flooding my house inside now because I'm on a slab. So the stormwater is a real problem there. And part of the problem, and I don't know how much they know about this, but my house is sitting on property that used to be a lake. Under there are springs. Across Merle Drive, there's at least 10 houses up and down there that are suffering with water problems because of springs.
Are you the only homeowner of your home yourself? You've been there since day one?
Yes.
You built that house?
Well, I didn't build it, I bought it new.
Right, and when did you buy it?
1978.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
43 years.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I watched the water there, and this property that they talk about so supremely, yet there's lots of trees. Have you ever talked about really what's under those trees? It's flooded most of the time. And those trails, they're going to have to elevate those trails about 4 feet, well, maybe not like 3 feet, to keep them up dry. Those trails are not going to be open year-round. They talk about riding a bicycle up there. No. They're not either. Going back from there to the church, and from about 3 houses up on my side of the road, all the way down to where that lake shows is underwater most of the time. And you might not see it. It may be, here's the surface and here's the water. The last time they tried to do something out there with a Caterpillar, it sank. They had to get heavier equipment to pull it out. There's a right-of-way there for AT&T, and I can't remember who else, but there's a couple of right-of-ways across there. Ask them how they clean that out there. They don't run down through there with machines and all, clean all that out. It was cleaned about maybe 6 months ago, 8 months ago, but they can't put heavy equipment in there.
Well, let me just say thank you. Thank you for, I really appreciate the longevity of your time here in Rockdale County as a resident, and it means a lot to this board that you have come out tonight and expressed your thoughts and concerns. I can tell you that we don't take any of this lightly at all. And you are a wealth of knowledge. I'm sitting here listening to all the details that you are most familiar with, having lived there for 43 years. But let me just say thank you. Are there any other last few points you want to point out?
I'd like to make one or two other points. HOA, I've looked at a few HOAs in my life, just a few, not many.
Yes, sir.
But this $250 or whatever, that does not stop the head of the HOA of jacking those rates up. And as soon as they run into a problem, a roofing problem, a fencing problem, a painting problem, and they got to pay thousands of dollars for any one of those, your HOA is probably going to double at that one point. And you say, oh, those things are so far off. They're not that far off. And that's just some of the things I listed here. There's all kind of things that drive these HOA costs up. So don't be leaning towards a $250 cheap deal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Charles Burster.
How much time do we got left?
9 minutes.
9 minutes, okay. We got 3 more speakers. I'll try to make it quick. Hi, everybody, and thank you, commissioners, for the opportunity to speak at this public hearing, and thanks for saying what you did, that you want to hear the public. I think we heard, and they were, is that you, Brian? Yeah. Hi, Brian. Been very, very cordial. We've been talking. Of course, the truth is, it's not just traffic. We couldn't be further apart, but it has been cordial, and I appreciate that, because it should be. But and I'm speaking for not just Terry Lane, but a lot of people up and down Flat Shoals. I've visited almost every house, and 100%, nobody said, oh, that's a great idea. Let's put that high-density housing in. And you know, Mr. Nesbitt, that, you know, Iris Road, all that high density going in. So we're feeling a little pressure here, us that living in the single-family communities, with more and more increased traffic and increased, you know, and now we're looking at a $43 million $43 million project with at least 145 units, about 300 vehicles, not including overflow, trying to get in and out in the morning. Yeah, so we're, and it's more than just, you are putting 50-foot trees in? You're going to replant 50-foot trees?
We're doing a 50-foot transitional buffer with trees and then a privacy.
With trees. They're going to, because our house is, you know, my bathroom window is 20 feet over higher. In other words, that tree that they're going to put in is not going to be a buffer. And that privacy fence is going to be way down at the bottom of the back. And so basically, we're going to be exposed to 145 units when I get out of the shower.
And which street are you on, sir?
Terry Lane.
Yes, sir. Terry Lane.
Well, one of the things I wanted to say, I understand the need for senior housing and some high density that have already gone in, but we're looking for balance. In a community, in this part of the county, where is the balance? Where is resources? My 14-year-old son, we've been living there 20-something years, my 14-year-old son had to play on the street or in the front yard of back there because there was no swings, there was no playground in the area. And, you know, I think about, I was talking to Mr. Redmond, Jordan Redmond, and you're familiar with the master plan, right? Mm-hmm. That's a great, great plan, by the way. I mean, a lot, there's 160-something pages. But it talks a lot about community health. It's projecting, you know, with the increased population and health risk, obesity, you know, in other words, having resources for biking and walking. And I'm looking at this project, I'm thinking, well, why do we have to, and by the way, we're just talking one little section that we're trying to squeeze 145 units in. Why couldn't we have a public resource for seniors and children? You know, something like when you have the Parker Road. You know, you come down off of Parker Road, just like we're gonna have Courtesy, you got places to vote, you got community resources, you got walking trails, you have tennis courts. We have nothing on the east side of Rockdale County below I-20. That would be a perfect place for like a micro costly mill kind of place, where you have, you know, resources for all ages, you got pavilions. In other words, what is there for the community? And I'm not talking just Mission Ridge or Terry Lane, but I'm talking about, I'm including the townhouses behind the Ingalls. Those kids got nothing, nowhere to go either. And I think about years ago, when I first moved here, there was a kind of a blemish on Rockdale County. You know, the lost children of Rockdale County?
Everybody knows the
And I'm looking 20-some years later, we have done nothing on that side of the county to improve the quality of life. So I'm asking you, I think this is a bad idea. Is that 5 minutes? Is that me?
Go right ahead, sir.
Okay.
So we'll wrap up.
I'll give them other time.
Yes, sir.
But, you know, I just wanted you to hear us.
Yes, sir.
And hear us and say, look, there's alternatives. We don't have to squeeze high density into every square foot of that side of the county. Let's have a little balance.
Appreciate you coming out
Thank you.
tonight, and certainly appreciate your passion. Thank you so much. We heard you loud and clear.
Mr. Chairman, we have 2 more speakers. Bridget Howell.
Good evening, Commissioner.
Good evening.
Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Bridget Howell, and I am the HOA President for Mission Ridge. And I do know that Inline reached out to us and we had a Zoom meeting. I did not attend, my schedule would not allow it, but I do know a few people attended that meeting. But now on the other hand, I talked to at least 18 to 20 homeowners in Mission Ridge who all oppose this particular project. And my main concern with the project, I've served as PTA president when my child was in school, and I know we've heard a lot about the traffic. But when you compare that to what's going on a 2-lane road in a school zone, I think that really impacts our area. We already have to deal with the Courtesy Parkway project, right? What is missing from this piece is the fact when school is in and there's an event going on at the school, parents are parked on both sides of the highway or the road, including up and down our community and the side streets. So that is a major concern for us. Secondly, the school parking does not accommodate anyone outside of the teachers parking on the premises. So parents have no other choice. So when school is in, when you're driving to go into the school from Mission Ridge to the school, you have like a side turn that's closer to the school. So sometimes you have the cars parked through there in the morning, plus the ongoing traffic. So when the bus is trying to get out on the end closest to Mission Ridge,
Right.
it just depends on how deep that traffic is. So you can have the traffic impact study, but when you talk about what's really going on in the community when the school is in, that is really concerning. So.
When did you serve as PTA president? I just thought I asked that question. What time frame, you
See,
remember?
now you're telling my age, and I'm trying to go back in time. At Memorial Middle School, I served as
Okay.
PTSA president. So I've always been involved in the school.
And you had young people to be enrolled there at Flat Shoals Elementary?
Correct. So even today, the kids in our community,
Yes, ma'am.
they do not walk to school. There's no sidewalk. The bus come in
So
to pick up our kids.
for the sake of clarity, commissioners, and for everybody that's listening, one of the reasons I asked that question, because Rockdale County and the city of Conyers have been working very closely with the local Rockdale County Public School System, as you know, is a separate entity. What I heard you say very clearly about not the school parking lot only having enough parking spaces to accommodate the teachers and employees or faculty and staff. That is a conversation for the Rockdale County Public School System. Because
Right.
when you talk about the schoolhouse and the available land and property that they have, that's something that they really should be taking a look at.
Absolutely.
And I will also say, because you've been out there for a long time, the Courtesy Parkway project has been a discussion for about 30 years
Right,
in
that's
Rockdale
correct.
County. So there's some opportunities there with the school system and Mission Ridge to talk about what are the possibilities of doing some expansions over at Flat Shoals Elementary.
Right.
Because they don't just own the property where the school is. They
Right.
have to get more than enough space. And there, I don't know
Right.
that area, the acreage, but I just thought I'd mention that to you.
Yeah, but the reason I bring that point up is this little area it's a huge impact to when you bring in 145 townhomes, you're really talking about almost 300 cars coming out of that particular area that's on almost like a blind spot because of how people fly down the road, right? So I know the impact study, at least one was done somewhere around June the 9th. School was not in. I understand they viewed prior data for this, but it's the impact of when school is in and people are parked on both sides of the road. This is project would be better served if this was a double lane highway on both directions, right? So that is the biggest concern because you don't have a 4-lane highway from Salem Road to Old Salem Road. So now we're making this one area really congested. So that is my biggest concern is the kids and trying to do all of this before the road is truly widened that can handle and support that. Let's see. I think Charlie maybe mentioned, what about looking at some type of walking trail, park, looking at connecting communities. When I look at some of the things that they have over in Gwinnett, this is perfect green space. You got the senior community out on Iris and Flat Shoals. Make it some other type of green space, or let's put the infrastructure in place and not let it be a hindsight type of, we'll get there and it's coming, but it never gets here because just like Courtesy Parkway, it's an ongoing discussion. So I think those are my main points.
I think you did a great job, and thank you so much. Absolutely. Where are we now on time and speakers?
6 seconds.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, we have one other speaker, and we'll have 6 seconds.
okay. Well, I'm going to give that speaker the liberty to be able to say what he or she needs to say. We can certainly know in 6 seconds.
Charles Dean.
All right. Come on up, sir.
Thank you for the extra time.
Yes, sir.
I was getting a little anxious over there. My main concern is the traffic. I'm not a traffic engineer, but logically speaking, traffic doesn't just leave Flat Shoals Road. So it doesn't this is not an off-ramp from Flat Shoals Road, it's a two-way street. So we're gonna get more traffic. 145 units is probably doubling the number of houses between Old Salem and Salem. It was real close to that. We've already got apartments going in, which I think was mentioned. The senior center's up there on, I think it's Iris. That's going to add some more traffic. Salem Road is a disaster. People are trying their best to get off Salem Road. Any way to get over the interstate, people are going to try to flock to that. So I see it as a big traffic problem coming up. I've been here for a long time, and they've been talking about widening Flat Shoals Road for at least 30 years, at least. And they've already talked about right-of-ways. I don't know if it's ever going to happen. I don't even think that would solve the problem, but it may help a little bit. So very little has been done to the roads in the time that I've been here, even though the population of the county has more than doubled.
Yes.
Went from under 50,000 to around 100,000. So I just would like to see some consideration to the traffic problem that it's going to solve. A traffic study, to me, I don't quite understand all that. I don't know how you would study traffic and say that it's an off-ramp for Flat Shoals. What does that mean? That means people are going to go on Flat Shoals and then go off, I guess. So, anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you. Director?
Mr. Chairman, that concludes the speakers for tonight, for that.
Okay, all right. What is our point of protocol at this point, Director?
So now we have exhausted the time for both sides of opposition and for those in favor for these two applications, so we should be ready to move to the next item.
So very good. So let me just say thank you to all of those who came out on this item. We certainly have, all three of us have heard from all of you all. We see the presence of the community. We also have heard from the applicant as well. Again, as we stated earlier, no decisions are made tonight. We will certainly be processing all of this information as we continue to move forward. Next item.
Mr. Chairman, okay, next item.
And I'm going to take a pause for the transition of folks who are going to be exiting, just to reduce a little bit of the background noise, just for a second. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. Okay, Director.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, next item we have is...
Director Johnson, are all of the people who are attending for the next item, do they need to transition from next door, or are they already here?
Everybody's over here.
Okay, all right, just wanted to make sure. Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir, thank you.
Appreciate it.
One second. Got some more movement? All right, next item is 5180 Highway 20, Northwest Loganville, Georgia. This is the special use permit case 2021-01, a request to commence dewatering activity. Parcel size 16.11 acres, owner Sherry Johnson. This particular item, one public hearing, one motion is required. And again, the purpose is to conduct a special use permit to do dewatering on this particular site. Staff recommendation was approval with conditions, which I'll read later. And Planning Commission's recommendation, they denied it. For one, they thought the risks were too high to the proximity to the Big Haynes Creek area, and they wanted feedback from the Rockdale Water Resources. Here is an aerial of the particular area, again, Georgia Highway 20, 5180, 16-acre site.
Excuse me.
Again, staff recommends approval with the following conditions for the special use permit. There was a subdivision plat prepared by Houston Engineering April of this year. Should be the guiding layout and design for this particular site. The actual location of the dewatering and other improvements shall be subject to actual site conditions once we actually get more in depth with more engineering design. So legal description may change. Very important, the site should be restricted to not exceed 1 acre for the dewatering activities per the code for Rockdale County. A 250-foot buffer shall be maintained on all property lines, and also a minor subdivision plat shall be submitted, reviewed, and approved by the Planning and Development Department to ensure that the dewatering activities are on the same parcel. Okay, this concludes staff's staff's presentation for this item, and I think the applicant is here if you guys have more specific questions for me.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know how to control this. Thank you very much. Good evening to you all. My name is Sherry Johnson, and I'm here tonight representing my family's interests in 5180 Georgia Highway 20. I will tell you that I'm not used to public speaking, so I'm going to be a little bit nervous, and I hope you guys will just bear with me.
Yes, ma'am. Take your time.
Can I first just give a quick summary of the information I want to provide you and let you know that our property is the perfect location for this dewatering activity. SEC is the right company to operate this activity, and there is no harm or no environmental threat, especially to Big Haynes Creek and anywhere really in the water protection district. And that is because Rockdale has set such strict regulations in establishing the water protection zone, and then also adding extensive regulations when they set up the dewatering regulations just a couple of months ago. And also SEC has a very high standards and very high work ethics. So we're hoping in the end that this will be a win-win-win between Rockdale, our property, and SEC. I'd like to start by just showing that our property is at the top end, the north end of Rockdale County. And so you'll see that Big Haynes Creek actually enters the county through our property, and continuing on down, as you'll see, all the way through to the reservoir. Actually, the creek runs through half of its length in Rockdale County is through our family property. So we have a vested interest in making sure that the waters stay very safe. And we also, sorry, if you'll see, I'm sorry, excuse me, the next. This is the Johnson property here, and you'll note that over 90% of the property is still in its pristine state, heavily wooded with a stream running through it. And what we're hoping for is to simply allow less than an acre for the dewatering activity to support being able to keep the rest of it in pristine natural state. And that is the best way to protect the stream and to protect the quality of the water going through in all cases. Now, we have had this property in our family for 4 generations. We have lived and loved this property over 80-something years. And the majority of that time, during my father's time and my grandfather's time, was spent farming. So we had raised crops, cotton and soybeans and livestock. We had chicken houses and cows, and that's my memories of childhood, was growing up on the farm. And we still refer to it on the farm, even though it hasn't been a working farm for quite some time. Because as much as we love that, in 1987, when you did establish the Water Protection District and all of the very, very strict restrictions which Rockdale put in place to protect that, it very, very much limited what those of us who had land that fell under that umbrella could do with their land. And in fact, our entire property, because the creek goes through it, is under the umbrella. And therefore, we have very few options on ways to support our land. And so again, we're trying to use this 1 acre to save the rest of it in its pristine state. Mm-hmm. And the dewatering is environmentally safe and economically sound, and is will allow us to upkeep, to pay for the upkeep and the property taxes for the remainder of the property. Now, I really appreciated when Director Johnson acknowledged the importance of preserving the historical land uses in the rural areas, because there are, again, few choices left when you're lucky enough to have a property with the creek running through it. Now, SEC, which is Southeast Connections, that's the company that actually operates the dewatering site. And they are very well known in Rockdale County. They are one of the largest employers in Rockdale County. They are one of the most highly regulated industries. They are a natural gas pipeline contractor, and they work for the likes of Atlanta Gas Light and other similar companies throughout Georgia and the Southeast. They have a very sterling reputation for following all regulations. They don't cut corners. And in fact, I remember the first time that Mr. Orlando Robinson from Stormwater came out to visit the site back in November. And he remarked afterwards that had he known it was SEC that he was going out there to review, he would have known to have no worries, because he has had so much experience working with them in the county over the years that they have never had a negative report. They have always towed the line and followed all rules and regulations. And I believe Chairman Nesbitt also remarked a few months ago when we were going through the process of establishing the dewatering ordinances that you were also quite familiar with SEC in the county, and that they were a very important part of the fabric of Rockdale County and had been for many, many years. Additionally, in January, we had quite a party that came out to the farm. A good part of the planning department, Teresa Jacobs, the deputy director, came out, Tanner Barr, the former city planner, Orlando Robinson, and a couple more from Stormwater, as well as 2 representatives from the Environmental Protection Division. And they came out there to inspect the dewatering site itself and also trekked all over the farm. So they had a very good view. And in every case found that all of the erosion control measures were properly installed, were working perfectly, and there was absolutely no sedimentation, nothing that got away from the site. There's double road silt fences around the less than 1 acre site, as well as 2 additional layers. And those who got lucky enough to trek from the watering site out to the creek, you'll see is nearly 3/10 of a mile from the site to the creek. Quite a long ways, quite a long trek, and very thick woods and vegetation between there. And so, once again, and I'll get to this in a minute, Mr. Robinson and Anthony Smith was out there again this week twice and reviewed the site again. And again, even after extensive rains, found that there was no sediment whatsoever had gotten in the creek, away from the area, etc. That'll come up in a minute. I'm new at this. So this is from Orlando, from the January 22nd, also saying that all the erosion control measures were properly installed and all were working very well. Okay, so I want to make mention that during the Planning Commission meeting a couple of weeks ago, it seemed to be suggested that Rockdale was not doing their job or well enough to protect your waters, and that simply isn't true. They have been doing a remarkable job of protecting those waters. First, with all of the very strict regulations that have been put in place for the WP, for the Water Protection District, and then additionally adding another layer when you all unanimously approved the dewatering regulations that the Planning Department put before you just a few months ago. And Commissioner Williams, at the time, I think you remarked that it was very important to set high standards in this county. Make sure that they were well communicated and that they were followed up, that there was overview to make sure that it was happening, and that is what's going on. So not only did they establish very high hurdles for us, very strict regulations, but SEC not only meets but exceeds these in every case. One of the first issues, just to bring to your attention, is that the standard says we have to be 250 feet from state waters. Well, as I told you, we're well over 1,000 feet from Big Haynes Creek in every direction, with, again, thick forest and vegetation in between. And then the next item was the minimum 250-foot buffer, which has to surround the property on all sides. Now that's when we went tussling a little bit with Tanner Barr and Teresa when that came up, because it was a very high hurdle. It was a extremely strict, in that even in Rockdale County, an inert landfill only requires a 100-foot buffer. But they were extremely adamant in protecting the waters and the area around any dewatering site by setting this 250-foot buffer.
We certainly appreciate hearing that.
Yeah, and just to give you an idea of that, if you were to center on an anthill, not even 1 square foot of dewatering area, it requires 6 acres for just the buffer. So when we're trying to establish a less than 1 acre site, that means we're setting aside 12 acres in order to service that 1 acre. And we're happy and willing to do it because, as I said, our objective for our family is to be able to preserve the natural pristine beauty of the rest of the property. And so we're able to do that here. But in the dewatering regulations, of course, you're also allowed to have dewatering on commercial sites, but that's nearly financially impossible, because expensive commercial real estate, to ask them to set aside over 90% of that property to not be used is again almost impossible for any other location. So again, this is a great spot to pick. And again, one of the remaining regulations there that Mr. Johnson, Director Johnson mentioned when we were going through the regulation process is that, again, this is not a dump. This is not a landfill. The whole point of this is that it's materials recovery and reuse. And so that there should never be more than 11 months of material that is stored on location. Well, SEC generally processes everything in approximately 48 hours. So they'll never have more than about a week's material there. So once again, we're exceeding all of the expectations and the regulations. And again, when they established these dewatering regulations a couple of months ago, when you all approved them, Chairman Nesbitt commended Director Johnson and the Planning Department's leadership in making sure that they were setting very, very high hurdles and very high standards to protect the Water Protection District. Mm-hmm. All right. Sorry, I'm new at this. All right, I'll get to that in just a second. First of all, I just wanted to say that we should, in looking at the dewatering site, we should also consider the financial and environmental costs of not establishing the dewatering site, because in the time that we've had to temporarily halt this activity while we're going through the process here of getting the dewatering ordinances in place, SEC has had to revert to their previous procedures, and that means that whenever they have the wet dirt that's been produced as part of the hydro excavation process of the gas pipeline work, they are literally having to take it to a landfill and dump it. And separately, they have to purchase the dry material in order to provide the backfill for the utility projects that they're working on. So that means nearly 4 hours round trip to Cartersville to take the product, pay a dumping fee, and again separately have to pay to purchase dry material as their backfill. So the costs are, increased fuel costs, increased employee costs for the time, increased costs from having to purchase additional material. So rather than reusing material, they're having to pay for all of these, and then the environmental costs of that as well. You're having increased air pollution from the additional trucking both ways, as well as land disturbance on both ends, both on increasing the landfill stocks and also having to dig out for the raw material. So for now, I think this is the video. Is this the video? How can you tell? This is supposed to be the video. I'm not sure if I run the video. Oh, okay. So this is just to give you an idea. This is just a quick 30-second video that shows you what the site looks like right now, and it's just a quick turnaround from the beginning. And you can see all of the double rows of the silt fences, as well as noticing the very thick line of trees surrounding the entire property. It's small. It's again less than about an acre. And then just a couple of additional, just to show that this is, again, will show you the double line fence. And as if you can see beyond that, so we have the double line fences around the entire 1 acre. Plus, in the directions towards the creek, there are another row, and you can't see there, but even another row. So there's 3 different lines of fences, making sure that we're covering all of that.
Oh, that's killing me.
Okay. Nice. And as you probably have heard me mention already, this is not a hypothetical. SEC has been running this dewatering activity at our location for over 10 years and never had a negative environmental report ever. The EDP has visited them on multiple occasions, and again, no negative findings ever, and they have followed all Georgia state regulations. Now, what you might remember from a couple of months ago when they were presenting you ordinances, and you questioned Director Johnson as to why if Georgia State already had their own regulations, why are we repeating that? And the answer was so that you can, I'll try to make this more interesting, and so that,
it's been a long
so that you can actually control it, so you can provide more overview of the activity, what's happening and where it's happening. And that's why again, that we started the process in November of establishing your own dewatering regulations. But again, in all of the time that it has happened, EDP acknowledged, again, not one negative environmental finding, and also knowing the entire time that it is in the water protection district.
Okay.
And so one of the things that was mentioned too is that during the planning commission meeting 2 weeks ago, they questioned whether or not, and I think that Mr. Johnson mentioned it too, whether or not the Rockdale Water Department was ever involved in this or ever reviewed. And yes, indeed, I did meet with Director Bogan and also one of their water engineers to confirm that it is in the purview of the stormwater department to make sure that the erosion control measures are in place and that the water quality of the stream is being cared for, and that it's not in it's not in RWR, but it's in stormwater. And stormwater has been very involved from the beginning. They've been over there a half dozen times, and again, nothing but positive reports. So I wanted to make sure that you knew that. Let's see. I think we've got. This is a report from Mr. Robinson, who again was just there this week, and also confirmed again that all the erosion control measures are still in place, still working, and there is absolutely no sediment found that have come from the site, and none in Big Haynes Creek at all. They walked all the way out there again from the site to the creek. And even after substantial storms that we have had here in the last couple of weeks. So, last thing, this just kind of is the outline of what the site will look like. And I think at this time, I'm going to turn it over to my brother, Stan Johnson, who can give you more technical information about the process and SEC.
Actually, Ms. Johnson, I hate to interrupt right now, Mr. Chairman, the board. We're having technical difficulties displaying the time, but your time has lapsed for the presentation. And so now we need to move on to the public comment portion where we have those that are signed up to speak tonight.
And what I'll do, Ms. Johnson, what I'll take the liberty to do, as the director has instructed us about the format, as the presiding officer, we'll make sure that if the commissioners have any additional questions, particularly about the technical aspect of this operation, we'll afford your brother an opportunity to address that, okay?
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right.
All right, let's keep it moving. Director?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we have 6 individuals signed up tonight. We have 3 for, 3 against. We will start with the support. The first one will be Mr. Clayton Johnson.
Come on up, Mr. Johnson.
Good evening, how are you?
Doing well.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Clayton Johnson. I currently reside in Monroe at 713 Chimney Trace. I'm the eldest of 5 kids of the Johnsons. I was actually there 10 years ago and I dug the first pit personally for SEC. I've also had the pleasure of working for SEC. I did it for 2.5 years. I'm totally for this simply because it's only SEC. I personally turned down 2 other companies who wanted to come do the same thing, but we said no because we know the standards of SEC. They're the type of people in the gas business, if they make us screw up, people die. So they do not cut corners. They have always gone above and beyond. If you've ever been to their safety meetings, think of a high school gym with retractable seating. And that's how big it is, and that's how special they take it. They have at least 1 meeting for everybody per month, if not more than that. I personally lived on this property, raised my sons there. We all service off the same well. If anything was affected, it'd be that well. Because my grandfather back in about the 1940s ran a place called McElroy's Mill. I don't know if you ever heard about that. That was right on Big Haynes Creek, and it was fed by a dam, which is still there. And if there was ever a problem with water pollution, which we did notice in the 1980s coming from Summit Chase and some other places upstream, it all collects right there on that dam. And we will notice it, but we've all been good caretakers of that creek for many, many years. We've raised our families there, like you said, 4 generations. So I'll give some other people some opportunity to talk unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. Next individual in support is Taylor McKendrick.
Good evening, Ms. McKendrick.
Yes, hi. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and the Board of Commissioners.
Good evening.
My name is Taylor McKendrick, and I'm a member of the Johnson family. I have lived across from the dewatering site for over 25 years of my life, and I recently lived on the property with my husband and our 2-year-old daughter. I come before you tonight in favor of moving forward with the dewatering site for a multitude of reasons. This land has been in my family for several generations, passed down just as it is and unblemished. Over the years, the members of my family have sought different avenues of generating revenue in order to sustain the property and continue to enjoy it the way it is. First and foremost, as a pediatric nurse myself and a mother, I would never risk the health and safety of my family if I thought that there was even a chance of pollutants in our water source. We all drink the well water and know that there are no contaminants at the dewatering site which could affect our groundwater. Secondly, I have never experienced any excessive amount of traffic or noise during the many years that I have lived there. Sure, there are trucks that come to and from the site, but it's no different than the regular busy traffic of Highway 20 during working hours. And third, I've grown up around Southeast Connections and have direct knowledge of their working practices and know them to be extremely safe and responsible. On behalf of the Johnson family, I appreciate your time tonight in taking into consideration this piece of the puzzle and my point of view, and I hope that you will give strong thought and consideration towards both our family and Southeast Connection on this matter. Thank you.
You must be a charge nurse because you know how to take charge.
I do.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the final support individual is Cynthia Christian.
Ms. Christian, come on up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name's Cynthia Christian. I live on the property, 5181 Highway 20, Conyers. I've been living there about 15 years, so I'm in between them and the creek. So, I mean, I'm for it. I haven't seen any kind of contamination, any kind of runoff. You know, we swim in the creek. We eat the fish out of the creek. If it was only, we've seen stuff come from Gwinnett County. I hope you aren't from Gwinnett. But, you know, and I'm also familiar with SEC. My husband worked there till he had a stroke, and they are very strict on their standards. I mean, you know, safety-wise, and also the wells right there, so it's, you know, the water's fine, so there's no contamination or anything.
Did you say you ate fish from the creek?
Yeah.
Okay.
Would you?
Well, I just want to make sure I heard exactly what you said. You ate
There's
fish.
some
from the creek.
little fish.
You look like you all right. I'm just saying, you've been eating fish out of that creek. You look like you okay.
They're little bitty fish.
All right. Well, Miss Cynthia, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate you. All right, Director.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, now the three individuals in opposition. First, we have a Dan Johnson.
Ms. Johnson, come on up. Now, are you related to these Johnsons?
No, sir.
Okay, I just want to be clear, because we got a
You do
lot.
know that when the Johnsons read the Bible, and
Yes, sir.
they said, take dominion of the earth and proliferate.
And that's exactly what y'all did.
Took it very seriously.
Okay, well, all right.
So, and I just want to thank y'all again for your opening statement about prayer, and we're going to fight for our nation. So I thank you for that. I'm not here to preach.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
I do have twofold purpose for being here, and I'm not here to fault anyone or keep anybody from making money. I'm not here to accuse anyone of destroying the river, contaminating the soil, or anything else. But first off, I'm here to support my aunt, her property adjoins the property. My grandfather was a Johnson. They were Johnsons. Everybody used to ask us, were we related? So, you know, not the first time I heard that question. But recently, you know, her husband's died. I'm kind of here supporting her. And the concern really has to do with noise because of the proximity of the location of the site where it borders her property. I'm not so sure that trees, just outward growth, you know, just whatever happens over the course of time is a real good natural barrier. But it's just a question in my mind. I'm concerned that she'll be able to live out her life. Her house is right there, her horse barn is right there, without a bunch of excess, whatever going on. Secondly, there is a concern for the water. I have been in construction pretty much all my life. Have had a lot of experience concerning heavy equipment, trucks. Back in 2007, I was doing a townhome project in Roswell. I had to be responsible for being sure that trucks coming in and out of the site took no dirt, mud, or whatever out into the streets. Roswell would have shut us down had that happened. I didn't come prepared with a lot of technology. I do have a couple of pictures of all the sediment that washes down at the bridge at Haynes Creek because it sits right at the bottom of two hills. There's 20 drain holes on that side because the bridge tilts to that side. There's sediment across there. There's all kinds of debris. So anything coming out, and I don't know what the operational procedure would be. I'm just being honest. But it would be a concern about trucks coming in and out, any kind of tracking from dirt. If you've got a rainy situation, you're going to track out stuff that's stuck to the tires. It all washes right down to that bridge. And I guess the only other thing is the traffic. I've lived around there all my life. You do have a hill coming down here. They talked about hours being possibly 6 days a week, operating from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Those early morning hours, late evening hours, high traffic times. And there is a potential for issues coming down that hill. I saw an extremely bad wreck in my younger days because of that situation there. So that's pretty much my concerns. And I
Mr.
appreciate
Johnson, thank you so much, and I certainly do commend you for representing the interests of your dear aunt. Yes, thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, next individual is Jacqueline Griffin.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I live about a half a mile from this location where my actual house is. The property joins. And I have some questions that, in my mind, I don't know how the entire community could really handle this very well. We do have water problems. We do have erosion. We do have runoff. We have noise. We have traffic delays. And this is a very busy two-lane road with a lot of large 18-wheelers. And in the last meeting, Ms. Johnson mentioned that it was very rural and not very populated, but that isn't true. There's a subdivision that joins my property on the other side with 172 homes. On across the street, there's 44 homes. To the right, toward the Johnson's property, is 55 homes. There's probably 35 or 40 regular homes around there. Some of them are on acreage. So if you add all those together, it's about 346 homes. That does not count individual homes that someone's got 4 or 5 acres. Typically, a home has at least 4 people in it. And if you think about it, if you got 380 homes in this less than a mile and a half, that's over 1,500 people. These people don't know about this meeting or this operation. My understanding is the operation was in session before they had a permit or a business license. So I cannot believe that they were living up to the degree that we need to protect the water in Rockdale County, because that is the only Rockdale source for water for all the people that we have. So all I can say is I would like for the board to consider how many people are affected by this and how I can hear the backup feature of these trucks. We have been exposed to lots of noise and lots of dust for a long, long time. The property is not pristine, and I've been associated with it since I was 3 years old, and I turned 84 just recently.
God bless you.
So, my property has been raped. That's not a very nice phrase, and so has that property. But thank you, and I do want to save time for one other person that we have.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Chairman, the final speaker is Terry Mitchell.
Okay.
Good evening.
Mr. Mitchell?
My name's Terry Mitchell. I live up the street just a little bit and spent most of my life, all my life, in the community, 73 years. Ms. Griffin and I have combined of 150 years experience on that creek from Snellville all the way back down to Costy's Mill. It is the same creek that goes down to Costy Mill to your park.
Yes.
Luckily, it's on the lower side.
And you say you live up the street where?
I live up, I'm at 6220 over in Walton, right up in, the county line is right there.
Yes, sir.
But I'm up the road.
You in the other county?
I'm in the other county, and I've
Yes.
spent 15 years defending you in Walton County and Gwinnett County.
Well, we appreciate that.
And I started in 206 with Holden Copart that came in, and you know Copart because they're the ones that haul the wreckers through your town that hit I-20. But anyhow, we've been able to hold, they purchased over 200 acres, and we've been able to hold to a footprint of 90. They have 20,000 cars parked there, 5 holding ponds, all overflowing into Brushy Forks Creek, which I have some pictures of I hope I can share. But anyhow, My big concern in working with the water people, and I've made numerous board meetings in Gwinnett and Walton, and this is the first time I've actually had to make any kind of a formal comment, but my understanding of this is a mega problem. It's not just a Johnson problem. It's not just the Johnson property problem, because the watershed is about 5 miles wide and about 8 miles long, all the way down to Costy's Mill, that whole watershed. And that's just one watershed. There's two. There's Big Haynes Creek and there's Little Haynes Creek. The headwaters on those creeks, I have 2 farms. One farm, the headwaters go into Brushy Forks, right where it joins Big Haynes, and I'm releasing about 10 million gallons of pure water that I would drink out of my creek into it. On my other farm, it's about another 10 or 12 million that starts the headwaters of Sandy Creek. So I've spent a lot of time in these creeks in my lifetime, all the way to Costy's Mill, when I had to pay a dime to change my bathing suit to go in. I mean, I had to spend a dime to change my bathing suit. But anyhow, what I'm really going to show you is this print here is just an overall shot. You've seen this. But anytime you see clear spots, you see those clear spots, that's uncovered stuff. The only thing I'm going to say about uncovered stuff is that the National Code requires graded land 2 weeks exposed to be covered. And I spent 15 years in erosion control in Gwinnett County, so I'm kind of telling you a little bit from experience. You go into Gwinnett County, you got about 8 or 10 subdivisions right now that are clear cut. Next to my house, there's a trucking company that's added 20 acres that's just clear cut. All that was going into Sandy Creek. When you get the Johnson property that y'all are talking about today is almost like a collected basin. If you see this big sandy area right up here, you know, every time it rains, you get silt moved around. And I was out with one of your water people last Friday, and he was riding with me, and we went to just about every area that I was giving him an education on how it laid out and everything. But I came back yesterday. This is where the silt is accumulating about maybe 800 to 1,000 feet above the old dam, the old McElroy's dam. That is a lot of silt right there. Every time it rains, it moves that silt. This is silt. This was Brushy Forks.
So, Mr. Chairman, I apologize, Mr. Mitchell, but the time is up for...
All right.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Yes, sir. Commissioners, did y'all have any questions for Mr. Mitchell?
No. My only comment is, Mr. Amazon said from space, it's fragile. Your water situation is a lot more fragile than most people understand it, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. All right, Director Johnson.
That concludes the comments for that particular item. We can move to the next item now.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Too. Are we clear that they started this activity before they received the permits for doing the activity?
There was some activity happening before.
How long before?
I'm not sure. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay. And could somebody explain to the public, I know I've done my own research, but a lot of people are not familiar with what dewatering is. Can we get a
good question,
a overview as to what exactly that is, so that
that's a great question, Commissioner. I'm going to allow for Mr. Johnston, who's going to give us the technical background, to come on up at this time and provide us a brief summary and education on that, as brief as you can, Mr. Johnson.
To answer your first question, yeah, we did it for about 7 or 8 years before, because EPD state said if you're less than 1 acre, you're not required to have a permit, as long as everything's in compliance, and they did. Even Orlando said the same thing. I know that the county came up later and said now they want to have something because it is in the watershed area.
Okay.
But EPD was always clear
that answers the first question.
So that, let me be clear, there were no citations or anything. We just started a requirement, and after you all have been following the state regulations?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. All right, you had another part you was gonna share with us.
She had a second question, I believe.
Oh, the question was, could you explain the dewatering process, exactly what that is to the public, because a lot of people don't know.
Yes, ma'am. Because we hydro excavate around existing utilities, around East Metro Atlanta, it's just a wet dirt that comes in, and we have a 40-foot circle with a concrete lined pit that these trucks dump into. We take it into another container and mix it with, it's a cement type drying agent. We also use wood pellets, and it instantly just dries the water. We put it out there, 2 days later it's dry and ready to go right back in the same utilities that came out from around.
So they're bringing the dirt in? They're not moving the dirt from your property?
Yes, ma'am.
They are.
Once we dump it in that pit, it's kind of wet, it's moist, okay? Because they use water, to vacuum it up.
Right.
All right, once it goes to this pit, we scoop it out and put it in this one container that we mix a drying agent with. At that point, it's like real thick, it's almost like a paste. We put it out there, and within 48 hours, it's ready to be, it's dried. It's like just regular dry dirt, like it was never wet.
Okay.
So it doesn't disturb the dirt on your property, it's just dirt that's brought in and then dirt that goes back out?
Yes, ma'am. We don't store it, we don't pile it up. It's just used, it's processed, and within, a week, it's back out. So, and kind of, I know we've had some comments about the traffic on 20, as you know, Chairman, SEC is a Conyers-based company, they're coming up down 20, where they're gonna stop there, they're coming to the office, they're coming up down 20 anyway, so traffic's gonna be the same.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Thank you, sir. Director Johnson.
All right.
Next item, item D, 2200 Plunkett Road, Northwest Conyers, Georgia. This is a rezoning case.
We'll give way to this transition that's taking place. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming out tonight.
Can I give you these?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell.
Those are all the threats, even in Morgan County.
All right, Director Johnson.
All righty, so next item, item D, is 2200 Plunkett Road, Northwest Conyers, Georgia. Rezoning case 2021-08. Request to rezone M2/C, General Industrial with conditions of approval, and M1/C, Limited Industrial, to M2, General Industrial. 26.31 acres. The owner is Great Southern Wood Preserving. Agent is Keith Rain. This item, one public hearing and one motion is required. The purpose of this proposal is to permit the expansion of Great Southern Wood and construction of a fire retardant treatment facility. Staff recommendation is approval with some conditions that I'll go into shortly. And the Planning Commission recommendation, also approval with conditions as well. Here, an aerial to show the location of this particular site. From the red X indicates where we are, the green X indicates where the location is on Plunkett Road. And in terms of the conditions that the Planning Commission established, again, we approved this with conditions to go from M2 to General Industrial with conditions, and M1 Limited Industrial with conditions to M2. Traffic impact studies required, that's one item. No direct access to Lester Road, and all traffic generated should be prohibited from using Lester. And this is just not from the recent leadership. This is an existing condition approved September 13th, 2005. So again, no access to Lester, and all traffic should be prohibited from using Lester Road as a means of access. Third, the property adjoins the R1 zoning district to the south, and that property is owned by Rockdale County. So an existing zoning condition approved July 8th, 1997. That condition, 0 buffers on the south and east property, which is specific to the M2 condition zoning district, formerly consisted of 14 acres. Therefore, 0 buffers are required on this particular property line. Number 4, the landscaping and buffer tree plan and landscaping buffer tree calculations and notes prepared by Hayes and James shall be adhered to, including the 8-foot tall opaque fence. A fencing, wooding privacy fence, shall be installed to the west of the landscaping between the natural conservation easement to the north and to the county's property to the south. The Planning Commission, again, they recommended the 5th condition to add a small berm with a Leland cypress or some approved type of tree that will help with the noise as well as shielding the view from the back of this to the front of the berm. And again, it's approved with those conditions 1 through 5. Well, planning staff conditions 1 through 4, but the 5th condition is from the Planning Commission, not from staff. This concludes staff's portion, and the applicant is here if you have any additional questions.
Commissioners, do you all have any questions for the applicant?
No.
Okay, are there anybody in opposition?
Yes.
We have 3 individuals signed up to speak, all in opposition. Ready for the public hearing? Okay, so we have Karen McClintock.
Okay. Good evening, Ms. McClintock.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Karen McClintock, and I have lived in Royal Lake Estates for 12 years now. My husband and I moved there thinking that we were going to retire in peace and quiet, have a nice, wonderful retirement. But we feel that there's so much industrial rezoning going on there that all of that is in jeopardy now. So we have a couple of concerns about Great Southern Wood, and it seems like a couple of them have been addressed, so hopefully that is the case. The first concern is that they want to rezone from M1 to M2. And it's our understanding that M1 has a clause that protects our property values, and M2 does not. We want to make sure that there's something in writing that will protect the property values of Royal Lake Estates and the residents of Lester Road. We were told last time that they were doing some kind of fire retarding treatment with a solution that is mostly water. And that sounds all very safe. Hopefully it is, we don't know. But we would like something in writing to protect our property values. Something that will say that no process or action from Great Southern Wood would diminish our property values. That includes, but is not limited to, chemicals, noise, smells, traffic, or traffic entanglement on either Lester or Plunkett. And we want to make sure that all traffic is confined to Plunkett Road. And I think I saw that just now, that traffic will be confined to Plunkett Road, so that is wonderful. My last concern is the exposure that has happened recently, where they've cut down all of the trees, exposing their facility, as well as Hydro X, really, to Lester Road. Not only that, but because they've cut down the trees, the firing range, is there. And so there's no longer a buffer for that noise when they're out there shooting. So that noise has increased exponentially. And our neighbors, especially those on the front end of the subdivision, we're told that it sounds like it's gunfire in their backyard. And so we just want to make sure that there is something in writing that will protect us. And I know last time Great Southern Wood showed us beautiful, beautiful pictures about what they were going to do with landscaping. It was all very beautiful. But we know trees don't grow overnight. And so we want to make sure that whatever they put in place will make sure that their facility is not visible from Lester Road, and that there will be some kind of noise buffer. So that's our major concern, and it sounds like they tried to address that. I'm not an engineer, I don't know how well that's going to address it, but those are our major concerns.
Well, thank you so much. And any questions for Mr. McClendon?
No.
Okay, Ms. McClendon, thank you so much. Director Johnson.
Next speaker, Mr. Steve Goodsell.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity. My angle on this is also through Royal Lake Estates, which is a subdivision of 36 houses ranging from about $450,000 to $1 million. When I bought properties out there, I think I bought 14, 15 lots originally. I still have 7, so that's my dog in the fight. I understood coming down Plunkett Road that it's an industrial road. It has been for years and years and years. And it's fair that properly suited industrial development occur along Plunkett Road. This applicant is at the intersection of Plunkett and Lester. Lester Road is a residential road and has been on the land use map and zoning-wise a residential street by and large. And I think you'll hear several of us talk about this and 2 other rezonings along Lester all here tonight. And I think the common thread you're going to see is all of us would like to see the residential character of Lester Road remain. We have a right to expect that, and we have a right when we're trying to go for an M2 right here, and M2 is more intensive than M1, and it's specified as being, what is it, I forget the exact wording, but something like it should be encouraged that development of M2 should be kept separate from residential properties. Well, this is M2, and we have houses right across the street. I've reached out to Great Southern, and they have been gracious enough to talk to me and get with me on a number of things. In the case of Great Southern Woods, we believe that the application could properly managed mitigate the impact and hopefully not negatively impact our values across the street. But there were a few points I wanted, if the commission decides to accept their application in the way of conditions. They have shown us a landscape plan. I would like any approval be conditioned to that landscape plan, including the plant sizes. They offered some trees that were in excess of what the county might normally require, and we'd like that landscape plan entered as part of the rezoning. We would also like that landscaping to go in as soon as possible. We're not sure exactly what the period of time is that it takes to complete their construction, but we are now exposed to the industrial. I've got a house that's 80% done and not yet sold, that is looking straight across the street at the clearing that looks straight to Great Southern Woods. So we would like the landscaping to be conditional. We would like the timing of the landscaping to be as soon as practically possible. Obviously, we can't plant 12-foot trees like they're talking about in August. That won't work very well, but we would like to see them get planted in the time frame between November and March of this next year, so we're not sitting there for 2 years watching the construction and listening to the construction and then being exposed to the industrial activities. So the presence of the landscaping, the time of the landscaping, and last but not least, the maintenance of the landscaping. Eventually, what they're talking about planting will grow in and be a solid buffer, but on the way to that, we need mulching, weed eating, and general maintenance, because absent that, it's an eyesore and negatively impacts our property values. Appreciate the time, everybody.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the final speaker is Debbie Owen.
Hello,
Thank you for your time
Good evening.
and hearing my part here. My name's Debbie Owen, and I live at 1940 Lester Road, just down the road from all this that's happening. It was 30 years ago that my late husband and I found our little place there, and we went back in the woods, and we carved our little place out, and we built our house. We've lived there for 30 years. Of course, he's gone now, so it's just me. But I think the main issue I want to talk to about this Great Southern Woods expansion is it's gotten so big, and these semi trucks keep coming out onto Lester Road, and inhibiting us. And I made pictures, okay? Hope you don't mind. But this is one side of Lester Road. This is the other side of Lester Road. Semi trucks come down these roads, and there's no way they can do this without taking the whole road. I've run into them there. There's no room for air. There's ditches on both sides and everything. It's very difficult. And I have found Plunkett Road is about right here. Okay? Plunkett Road, come out, and come out right here. And I used to go down Plunkett Road to go to Covington Highway. I can't do that anymore. It's gotten way too busy. Trucks are coming and going and like that. And this is the other side where Lake Rockdale is. 2 90-degree curves. Can't really be done safely by the semi-trucks. The reason I'm bringing that up is I would like to see some, get up close to this. I'd like to see some signage on Plunkett Road, say no trucks on Lester Road. I would like to see signage on Lake Rockaway and excuse me, signage on Farmer Road, say no big trucks to come on Lester Road, because that would make me feel a lot safer, having that on there. Because I don't think truck drivers even know what they're getting into. They look down that way, and they might have been told not to go down that way, but they do. I almost caught a picture of one. I was going to bring it, but I didn't get it.
I think Director Rutledge waking everybody up. You want to make sure we're still with you.
Okay.
Ms. Owen, go right ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to take you back a little bit. 30 years when I moved there, Plunkett Road had only Great Southern Woods on it, a little bitty establishment down there, and the rest of it was gravel when I moved there. It's exploded, and as somebody had said tonight, I don't care, people are making a lot of money. That's a good thing, but it shouldn't infringe on our peace and quiet. And I'm going to have to use this road a whole lot more, and I needed to. This will come up in the next thing. I have to bring these back. I have pictures where I took, see, I'm not very good artist, and I'm not very good with the computer, so I just had to take a picture, just to show you what we have here. Jeez, I'm nervous. But these are the curves, actual curves, right here. And Lester Road is only a mile long, One's on one side, one's on the other, and in between are 20 or 40 houses.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll be back, because Lester Road's under attack this week. So.
Ms. Owen, thank you so much. Director Johnson.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes the individuals that signed up to speak for the public hearing component for item D.
Quick question. I have so much stuff written on this piece of paper. The landscape plan, do we have a copy of that so we can see what's proposed to be added to it?
I can get you a copy of that working with.
And does it include?
Excuse me, they can come up tonight if you have them.
Okay. Does it include the upkeep and maintenance with the land? And while we're talking, I would like a timeline on how quickly we can start the landscaping so that we can eliminate a lot of the noise and make it more aesthetically pleasing for the residents.
Yes, ma'am. That's a good representation here from a plan view of that is our landscaping plan.
And for the record, just state your name.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name's Keith Rain with Great Southern Wood Preserving. That's an accurate representation of our landscape plan, just does not have the notations on there for the types of trees and all that stuff. But visually, that's what it looked like in plan. And what we've done here is we asked our design team to render at maturity what those trees are going to look like from the vantage point of that red dot coming up Lester Road here. So if you'll, do I have, yeah, so this is coming up, and again, this is at maturity, but all these are evergreen trees. There are 135 trees that we've put on the landscaping plan because, like they mentioned, Lester Road, we understand, is a more residential road. This property that we're asking about the rezoning, we've combined parcels, and now part of that parcel is zoned M2 and part is zoned M1. So it's already zoned for manufacturing. We believe that we could do what we're planning to do with that zoning, but all of the rest of our property was zoned M2 when we started back in 1985. And I mean, I would say that we've been here since '85. We've tried to be good neighbors. We love Rockdale County, and so we did meet with Mr. Goodsell and went over this landscape plan in detail. Stood out there at the house across the street that does look over onto this property. Discussed the grades. Our grades are a little higher. The forklift traffic is going to be on primarily on the opposite side of that building there. That's really the only house that will see this property. I mean, all of the other houses in the United States are, you really can't see this property from them. But keep going. This is just going to kind of be a running as you're coming up Lester Road. And the rendering there is accurate in terms of the height and the width and the body of the tree, of all of those trees.
But that's at maturity, correct?
Yes.
So that's years away. So is there anything in place to eliminate a lot of the noise and everything?
Yes, ma'am. We're also putting an 8-foot privacy fence down, I think it may be the next one that you can kind of see between the trees. There you go. The privacy fence down that side. All of those 135 trees that are just along Lester Road there, the county, I forget what the county's minimum requirements or what we would have to be, for our plannings to meet the landscape requirements, but we're putting in trees that are specified to all be at least 10 to 12 feet in height at planting, which is at a significant premium in cost for us, but we did, again, understanding that we want to be a good neighbor. We want to try and screen this as much as absolutely possible for cars that are just, coming by to go to their home down Lester. So as you come across, those are the native trees that were there. That whole corner there at the intersection is I think it's a conservation easement. So all of that is left, and it's a good screen, great screen. As you come around.
Do we have a timeline?
So, yes, ma'am. We've been working on this project. It's been on our radar for a long time. We're very motivated to get it done and put this facility in service. I discussed with or emailed with Mr. Goodsell about the timing, and the state and county erosion control requirements dictate that we have to establish a sediment basin first. Part of our site, because it's a tight site, we have to build a retaining wall to frame about half of that detention pond. So we have to do that first and build the pond to establish that basin. We have to bring imported dirt in to build the slope. We can't put the plantings on the slope until we build it. So we have to build the detention pond and then build the slope. I told Mr. Goodsell that I think it's very doable to do it to have the plantings in by March. It's hard for me to guarantee anything because there's just so many unknowns. That it could be from weather to unforeseen conditions with the soil, if we run into rock, if we run into bad dirt. I mentioned we have to import loads of dirt if you sometimes it's hard to find. I don't know, those kind of variables make it hard to say, yes, by this date, we will absolutely have this done. The maintenance of those plants is an issue or a concern of mine. We're not going to have water on the site until a little later in the schedule, and we're talking about roughly $50,000 worth of plants. And I don't want to put those plants out there and run the risk of losing some of them because they're just not being maintained. So once we get there and we're in the normal order of things and those trees are planted, absolutely, the maintenance, we are going to take care of 100% like we've done all the rest of our property up and down Plunkett Road. I think if you go by there, you'll see that we do take very good care and pride in the maintenance of our facilities.
I've been there many times.
So that will definitely be something that we will be doing here as well.
I just would like something a little bit more concrete because, you know, I am a avid shooter and I know how, you know, the noise of gunfire can make people apprehensive. And then, you know, when you buy into a $400,000 plus community, it's a little disconcerting to walk out of your subdivision and see what's going on that I saw when I went down there a couple of weeks ago. So I would like to see if we can come up with something a little bit more concrete so that the residents can feel a little bit better about their investment over there.
In terms of the time?
Timing, yes.
Well, I can tell you that, I mean, obviously, we've already cleared the site. We're chomping at the bit to build this, so we've been calling the county and asking, hey, would it be okay if we go ahead and clear? Would it be okay if we go ahead and put a road? And so we're trying to get as much done as we can, as any chance we can. So as soon as, you know, we're able, we are going to be moving forward and bringing, you know, sourcing dirt, bringing dirt in, getting our pond built, getting the wall built. It's just, I don't know how to give you a more concrete.
Well, I think, let me help you out a little bit, Mr. Raines. I think what the commission is really saying, as we listen to the citizens of the county, we certainly support economic development with what Southernwood is doing. And it is difficult to come up with a concrete timeline, but I would suggest that you take this opportunity in the amount of time that you have left and put your best creative hat on that you can and think about the reduction of the noise and the interference of what she's talking about. And I don't know what that looks like or sound like even as I'm speaking, but I'm just suggesting, I think that you all have dedicated a lot of time and resources in this project. At the same time, we always listen to the citizens of the county, and they brought forth some valid points, and we're looking for a common ground for a win-win. And as I stated earlier tonight at the beginning of this meeting, we're processing all of this information. I wouldn't try to just come up with an instant answer tonight. What the commissioner is saying, get with your team, certainly hear from the residents, as we've all heard from them tonight, and take it into deep consideration and do what you can do in the most expeditious amount of time as possible. We understand the growth of trees, so certainly that's not going to be an overnight. Everybody here understands that. That's not going to happen overnight. But what we have to do is consider all factors as we move forward. So I just wanted to point that out because I do know, and Commissioner Washington has certainly been a champion when it comes to aesthetics and any type of development in this community, and it makes all the right sense that we hear from the residents as well. And I'm so pleased to hear, glad to know that you've been working well with our Planning and Development Department. I'm also appreciate knowing that you talked with Mr. Goodsill, and you guys have been good corporate community partners, and I will acknowledge that myself. That is definitely the case in Rockdale County, but we've got a little bit ways to go. We cannot put the cart before the horse, so no matter how many times you call planning and development, they got to follow the rules. We got to practice what we preach, but at the same time, we want to embrace economic development as well as protect the interests of our tax-paying citizens. Yes, sir.
Yes.
So thank you. So, Commissioner Williams, you got anything for Mr. Raines?
No, I had all kinds of notes myself, but again, our attorney over here.
We'll let you go first.
Are we going to have to
Ask all
take
the
turns and
questions.
mediate between the two of you?
Well, this has really been good information, and sometimes a good thing takes a little while. So if there's not anything else from Mr. Raines at this time, thank you, Mr. Raines, and thank you all, Mr. Director Johnson.
All right, Mr. Chairman, we have one individual that signed up for public comment and opposition. We have one, Debbie Owen.
What is that? I thought we just.
Ms. Owen, we heard from her earlier. That was her earlier.
She might have signed up for the next item that is also
Are
on
we on
Lester
to the
Road.
next one on letter E?
I apologize.
That's all
Next
right. It's been a
item-
long evening.
Item E.
But we're going to keep it going, though. Come on.
Okay, so next item E is 0 Lester Road, Northwest, Conyers, Georgia, rezoning case 2021-09. This is in relation to the previous item D, a request to rezone M2/C general industrial conditions of approval and M1/C limited industrial with conditions of approval to M2 general industrial, 20.24 acres. Rockdale County is the owner. This requires one public hearing, one motion. Purpose is to create the access road for our sheriff's department onto Lester Road. And staff recommendation is approval with conditions, which I'll mention later. And the planning commission also recommended approval with conditions. Here again, aerial of the site. The red is indicating where we are at the county building. Green is the area on Lester Road. Planning commission and staff both recommended approval of this proposal with the conditions to go from M2/C and M1/C to M2 general industrial. Just note, the Shipley branch has stream buffers and Georgia Power has a 125-foot right-of-way to the east and south of the Rockdale County property, and they own property in that R1 district. So because of that, what's existing, no additional buffers are required for this particular area. And that this is the only, these are the only items that we had from both planning staff as well as the planning commission as well. So now,
Are we
yes, ma'am.
talking about the exact same project with Southern Wood? Just, but it.
The county property on the southerly end,
It
yes, ma'am.
intersects in two different locations, so we're looking at each location separately.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It's by lot with that right here, separate property.
All right.
lines, yeah.
Okay.
Now, we have now property, we have public comment. We have one individual sign up, and this, again, is Miss Debbie Owen.
She said she'd be back. Come on up, Ms. Owen.
Been there 30 years, I have a lot to say.
Come on up, Ms. Owen. Come on up.
Okay, again, my name is Debbie Owen, 1940 Lester Road. I wasn't even aware this was being rezoned until I was at the planning meeting, because the sign is in such a precarious place, it was impossible to get to. But I'm prepared tonight to explain what was going on with me. But I know it's a sheriff's department entrance, and I have nothing against the sheriff's department. I mean, God love them and God bless them. You know, they deserve everything they can get. But my concern is, I'm bringing back my poster. This is the curve right here, and the proposal to put the thing in is right here in this curve. Now, this is not just a curve, but you actually go downhill into this curve, and you come uphill from this curve. It's a blind curve. It's already very dangerous. I don't know what kind of things they're going to be bringing out here. They had a perfectly good entrance on Plunkett Road, and then Southern Woods bought it and want to put them over here. But this is very dangerous, I think, right here. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it. I know you guys are very busy, but I don't know if you had a chance to look at it. But not only that, but you know, Lester Road's been there a while. Very curvy. The water runs down the road. The ditches are deep. You know, if you run down there and run into something, you can't get off the road. You know, you'd fall in a ditch. I met a semi truck there one time. I just shut my eyes. I knew I was going to die. It's just this very scary area right there. But I just want to, you know, reiterate as we go along that Lester Road is a quiet road. It always has been. It's a very curvy road. I don't think we can yank the curves out of there. It's a very hilly road. I don't think we can flatten the hills. And it's a residential road. You know, I've seen a lot of houses come, beautiful houses. I really am enjoying my neighbors that have moved across the road from me, all these Royal Lake people that are all here, you know, because I didn't have any neighbors. I was out there kind of back in the woods, like I said, all by myself. So I really enjoyed my neighbors coming in. But I think we got to be careful about keeping us safe back in here. So that's about all I had to say on
Ms.
that.
Owen, thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. Director?
That concludes the individuals that signed up to speak for that one item for public hearing.
All right, let's keep it moving.
All right, keep it moving. Next item is item F. 1101 Johnson Road Southwest, Conyers, Georgia, 30094. This is a future land use map case 2021-06. Request to amend the future land use map to redesignate property from commercial and high-density residential to high-density residential. Also to a request to rezone property from C2 general commercial to RM multifamily. Salco Development LLC is the owner. The agent is John Andrew Nix with Maddox Nix. This requires 2 public hearings and 2 motions for these items. Purpose is to expand an already approved single-family attached townhome neighborhood of the Klondike Reserve with the addition of these 3.47 acres. The 3.47 acres will include the proposal 33 single-family attached townhomes, looking at a density of 8.82 units per acre. And again, this is adding to an existing 14.59 acres and 68 units already in phase 1 in this particular area. Staff recommendation was approval with conditions, which I'll go over soon. And Planning Commission also approved this particular item as well. Again, here we have an aerial to show you an aerial view of this potential location. And again, as you see, this is at the northwest corner of this particular parcel, 3.3 acres to be contingent with the other 14 acres that's already zoned. Planning Commission and staff both recommend approval with conditions. The first item, making sure the exterior facades are substantially clad in cementous siding, complementing the character, some of the same areas we talked about earlier with the quality of the exterior of the townhomes for Rockdale County. Number 2 is making sure the townhomes have a varied facade that could have different architectural accents, design elements, make sure the overall appearance and architecture of those townhome developments are compatible with those of the surrounding developments within the county. Number 3, as noted by the concept plan dated March of this year, they can be either a combination of front and rear loaded townhomes. And number 4 is that they should have amenities, including a green space and a pocket park. Additionally, internal sidewalks shall be installed, lighting, the covenant conditions and restrictions should include a clause to limit this to no more than 15%. And this is because that previous phase 1 was already at 15%. That's why that number is consistent with the previous phase. Contingent upon approval for this proposal, there should be no request made again to annex any part of this site for 30 years. And a traffic impact study, unless otherwise required, shall be shown in our forthcoming LDP with the engineered site plans for this one. And this concludes the staff portion of this particular item. And let's see, there were no one signed up for this one for public comment, commissioners.
How many units? I'm sorry.
So do we have the applicant?
Additional 33.
And we do have, Mr. John Nix here.
Right.
I realize y'all are in a marathon, that's why I'm talking, so I want to It'll be a total of 101, but the front will have 33, but it'll still meet the density requirements.
And this is facing Johnson Road?
It is. It actually, y'all will remember, this is like a sequel because it was before you before. My name's John Nix, 945 Bank Street, for the record. This is like a sequel. This front was going to be commercial, a hotel and commercial. Because of COVID and what's happened in that industry, the interest in it completely went flat. So the proposal is just to add this onto the existing In fact, with this, if you look at there's a slide that the commercial came right to Johnson Road. This development now will be set back from Johnson Road. There'll actually be green space between Johnson Road and where this development starts. And it's almost directly across the street from the project that's going on with the city right now.
I was going to ask you, the Eastmore?
Yes.
It's right across, okay.
Well, not right across, but I mean.
Sure.
A diagonal.
Yeah, nearby. Okay.
All right.
So have you conducted the traffic study yet?
They've done a traffic study for the rear 14.72, and they found out they did not have to have a decel lane. I don't know, though, if the traffic study that was submitted for that included the front, so we're not objecting to that continuing to be a condition. We understand why it needs to be.
So one of my, when it comes to townhomes, Inline has got it that they have a lot of amenities. If we're gonna do townhomes, I would like a community. Are there open spaces and amenities included in this plan?
The slide that he just had up there, he's got to help me because I can't even hold the clicker. You see that they have the green space, the amenity area that was required from the first zoning that you've already done. And there's another slide that shows a conceptual of the plan, and that's where you're going to see the green space that's in the front of Johnson Road now. But I wasn't part of the first application as far as the amenities part, but that green space was the major amenity. And you can see because of the lay of the land, there's not as much green space as the site you saw previously, because it's not as many acres. But you see how it falls off to the rear, and you've got a lot of wet, just like that other site they described. So there's a lot of green to the back and rear of this property as well, and then substantial buffers. But as far as the amenity package, I think is limited to that green space area and park that's right there shown on the front.
So what are the white rectangles and up near Johnson Road?
This is the conceptual plan from before.
Oh, that was the commercial
And
space.
that's the commercial
Okay.
and the hotel. The price point of these houses, these townhomes are going to be approximately 1,700 square feet on the small side, and the price point's going to be starting in the 250s. The reason we don't have all these gorgeous pictures is because the site has not been sold. We're not the developer too, we're the owner of the property. I'd love to be in a position where I could put on that kind of show for y'all, because that was very slick and well done, and very informative. But we just can't make those representations as the owner that's going to sell it. But the person that's very interested in the property, and we hope to sell it to, they built the product that was depicted in that pictorial, and they start at 250, 260.
But we can condition the townhomes, because I would want to see the two-car garages again. I would like the streets to be consistent with what we've done in the past.
I think that's in the conditions for the original, and all that will remain the same for the front as well. They're going to follow that same plan.
Okay. And parking spaces, I would like to see parking spaces.
So the only thing really that this is requesting is just that change in that front part, from commercial to multifamily?
What we're really doing is the future land use map, before they came in 2020, called for this all to be the same high density residential. When they came in and asked for the commercial, they were asking you to change the future land use map. So now to take it back to where the future land use map is, they're asking you to change the future land use map again to return it to where it was before they changed it in 2020. But they really were excited about the potential of the hotel there, but it just fell apart.
Okay.
Well, they knew what I knew.
All right. Commissioner, any additional?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nix.
Thank you, y'all.
Yes, indeed.
I left at 11 o'clock for the commission meeting, so y'all are...
We're rocking our,
I know. Yeah, I would say, but I'm gonna watch it online.
We're in the chairs, we're rocking and rolling.
Rocking and rolling.
Okay, next item is
Rocking and rolling, though.
Next item is item G, 1900 Lester Road, Northwest Conyers, Georgia. Future land use map case 2021-07, a request to amend the future land use map to redesignate property from medium density residential to light industrial. Also, a request to rezone property from R1 single family residential to M1 limited industrial. A 3-acre site. Sarah Southsea is the owner currently. The applicant right now is Hydro Excavators LLC. This will require 2 public hearings and 2 motions. The purpose is to expand Hydro Excavators, their company footprint, or using their property for equipment storage, as well as supporting offices. And then to combine the property with the existing property for this overall expansion, as I mentioned. Staff recommendation was approval with conditions, and the Planning Commission also recommended approval with conditions. Here again, aerial to show you aerial view of the actual location, where the red is where we are located currently. The green X is the area location along Lester Road. Staff recommends, again, approval with conditions of the request for future land use, as well as to the rezoning. First thing is a traffic impact study required, unless otherwise determined by our DOT. And this traffic study will be part of the LDP permit, which is forthcoming. Direct access to Lester Road shall be restricted to light vehicle traffic only. If purchased or used by Hydro Excavators, the property shall be recombined with Hydro Excavators' existing property to the south, 2095 Plunkett Road, before the issuance of the LDP. Item B, the buffer that was installed at 2095 Plunkett Road shall be extended unto 1900 Lester Road Northwest, and any material solidification shall fall under the dewatering zoning use classification and regs that we talked about earlier for the other dewatering project. This concludes the staff's portion for this particular item, and we do have a few. If you have any questions, the applicant is here. If you have any questions for them,
Commissioners, you all have any questions for the applicant?
Well, I'm sure I'll have some once we get started.
Okay.
Right now, no.
Let's keep it moving.
Okay, so we have 4 individuals that signed up. We have, let's see, first let's start with the opposition. Lachelle Williams.
Good evening.
Good evening, Ms.
Chairman
Williams.
Nesbitt,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner
Appreciate you
Washington.
hanging in there with us, Ms. Williams.
Thank you.
All right.
And Commissioner Williams, good evening. First of all, I want to say thank you for this opportunity for us to express our concerns on behalf of Royal Lake States community. I am Lachelle Williams, and I'm a very concerned resident about the situation, along with everyone else here from our subdivision. So we're here this evening because we respectfully request for you to please deny the rezoning of the residential land to industrial. As it relates to cases 2021 and 07 and 2021 and 11. We actually have signed petitions from the residents of Lester Road, including 100% of the residents that actually live in Royal Lake Estates, and I'll definitely provide that to you right after this. But we're definitely positioned asking for it to be denied for the following reasons. Number one is our reduction in our market value. Right now, as we know, real estate is thriving throughout Conyers. But we feel very strongly if they are allowed to rezone this from residential to industrial, it will directly impact our value. And so one thing, when I moved in 2 years ago, I was concerned about the space around. So I actually did my research. As you know, a lot of these homes are ranging easily in the high 400s, over 500,000. So I did my research to find out, what's going to happen to the space across from us. I was assured it was residential. I went to the courthouse and verified it was residential. So with that, I proceeded to move forward and build property as the rest of the residents did too. Now we're learning something totally different. So we're concerned about how it would directly impact our market value, as well as the safety and the traffic on the road. Pictures that you actually saw, or that some of your other people in the county actually saw 2 weeks ago in a planning meeting, as well as some of the pictures shared tonight, they looked nice. Unicorns look nice as well, but those pictures are not a reality of what's actually on those roads, and it would take time for the trees to actually mature to address some of the concerns there. Right now, there's lots of traffic in and out, enough as it is, and so our concern is that we do not want Lester Road to become a Plunkett Road. Plunkett Road is very high traffic with industrial works going on and about, so we want to definitely protect Lester Road from that. Other concerns when it comes to traffic and safety is there's been no traffic study done whatsoever. And this will increase impact of 4 Rockdale County school buses entering and exiting the subdivision, which will definitely create a problem in we only have one way in and one way out. So we definitely see that as creating more problems. This can also create problems for emergency vehicles such as fire, ambulance, and police response may be seriously affected. It will also be a strain on existing utilities as it relates to existing water and sewer. Another concern is proposed land incompatibility, noise pollution, noise control, natural environment, and unsightly landscaping. So, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, we are not opposed to business growth and creating jobs. However, we see that in adequate and reasonable circumstances. These are not adequate and reasonable circumstances of what they're asking to rezone residential into industrial. And so with that, we are strongly opposing hydro excavators and any other business that is trying to strip away residential zoning and turning it into basically our backyards into a warehouse space. We all have significantly invested a lot in Royal Lake Estates with the assurance that the land directly across from us was going to remain residential. And so for that reason, we humbly request that you all would deny the request to rezone residential into industrial. And may I approach?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's fine.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
We thank you for your time, and I will turn it over to the other 3 speakers.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the next speaker in opposition is Karen McClinic.
Okay. Come on up, Ms. McClinic.
Thank you. I'm going to get right to our concerns.
Thank you.
I know we have limited time. As Lachelle has already said, we are asking that HydroX be denied from rezoning from residential to limited industrial. In the last meeting with the planning committee, language was changed to say that light vehicles will be allowed on Lester Road. But that was never explained as to what that really means. What's the definition of a light vehicle? And even if someone provides the definition for us, who is going to monitor that? Who's going to make sure that only light vehicles come on Lester Road? So we really are concerned about that once access is given to HydroX on Lester Road, that we will have all kinds of trucks, all kinds of noise on Lester Road. And so we do not believe that allowing trucks on Lester Road will protect our property values. Now, HydroX has said that they only have office space at this site. And so we're wondering or trying to understand, if that is the case, why do they need access on Lester Road? They already have access on Plunkett Road, plenty of access. So we want to be sure that they are limited to Plunkett Road. We want to, I don't know if you've been there to see Lester Road, but as Debbie has illustrated, it's a very windy road. We have young kids in the neighborhood, we have elderly people, we have people walking, we have school buses coming in and out, so we don't need additional traffic on Lester Road. And we understand that one of our neighbors is interested in selling her house. We're not opposed to that, but we want to make sure that it is sold as residential, not as commercial. This is a residential area. Also, landscaping. HydroX had said that, they worked with Royal Lake Estates on their landscaping. And they did, but they did the minimum that was required. Again, I don't know if you've seen it, but it is an eyesore. It looks horrible. Now, HydroX blamed the sad state of landscaping on the county. They blamed it on the county. And I'm not excusing the county. As a matter of fact, the county came, I saw today that the county had come and cut. They could stand to cut a little bit more often, but the hill and the trees that were planted, they are not being maintained at all. Honestly, it's an eyesore. And HydroX just needs to do better in maintaining their landscaping. And the last concern that I want to address is, this really hasn't been talked about, but water runoff. I'm not sure all that they're doing at HydroX, but we know that water is running off from their facility and going into our private lake at Royal Lake Estates, comes across the street and runs into our private lake. And we want that addressed as well. That may not be part of what you guys are looking at today, but that is another concern from HydroX. And we just want you guys to put yourselves in our place. We want HydroX, we want Great Southern Wood, everybody to put themselves in our place. Would you want industrial sounds, smells, noises, pollution, potholes, all of that across the street from where you live? And I don't think any of us would want that. So we just ask you to consider our concerns. Thank you.
Ms. McClendon, thank you so much. Yes, thank you. Director Johnson.
The last speaker for opposition is Ms. Debbie Owen.
Come on up, Ms. Owen.
We're getting to be best friends.
Okay. This one is near and dear to my heart because I live right next door. My little hole in the woods is going to be by an industrial site. This just doesn't seem possible. I never imagined, that the residential spot, 3 acres or something beside me, would become an industrial site. I mean, it breaks my heart. It really does. If it gets built here, it's going to be right on top of my well. It's going to be right on top of my ears, and it's going to be right on top of my nose. It's going to be right there, and I'm very concerned about that. Where they are now, over on Plunkett Road, which is where they belong, I can hear them, and it scares my old dog, and he's almost deaf, and he can hear it. It's loud, What's going to happen when they're right next door to me? I'm not sure what to do about that. But if they are allowed to build there, please don't let them have access to Lester Road. That's a slap in our face. Cut them off. We don't want to see them, as best we can. We're going to have to hear them, I suppose. You can't block that off in any way. But please get it to where we can't see them and know what's going on back there. Let us have our dignity of our life living in there. And I have some pictures. Can I come up here?
Yes, ma'am.
My neighbor provided me these pictures because he lives in that Royal Lake subdivision right across from where they want to build. And he has pictures. This is right from his yard. And he's marked the expansion here. This is what he's going to see from his beautiful house. Yeah. It's going to be with the X where it's going to be. He happens to live on the corner, It's so pretty.
This is from their backyard, and that's Lester Road right there. And as you can see, Lester Road is not a big road like it showed in the pictures a while ago. It's a tiny little road with ditches on both sides. And that is from his bedroom window. That's what you can see. And I live just over here, very close to that, so.
Okay.
Anyway, I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Owen. Thank you so much. Director Johnson.
Except for this whole back corner is against this.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we have one last comment, and this is for support. Mr. Paul Salson.
Okay, Salson.
Hi, Commissioner, Chairman.
Good evening.
My name is Paul Susi.
Okay.
I live at 1900 Lester Road.
Okay.
In 1995, I'm a veteran. In 1995, I decided to move my family to Conyers because I thought Conyers would be a good, wholesome community to raise 3 teenage girls. It's been wonderful.
Okay.
Thanks to all the schools and the people in Rockdale County. It's a place where you want to raise children. I raised my 3 teenage girls here. I raised 3 grandchildren here, and I'm now raising a great-grandchild. We've had a very good life in Rockdale County. All that changed on February 25th when my daughter's husband came home drunk and high on drugs. He went in her bedroom, he ripped her clothes off, tried to rape her. When he couldn't succeed at that, he took a taser and tased her in the side and took a hammer and hammered her in the head. She screamed. I ran to her bedroom. I dragged him out of the house and threw him out on the porch. She locked the door. I called 911. They were wonderful, the people who came. And they sent an ambulance. They had to drag her out of the house on a stretcher. They put her in Rockdale Hospital, who was very good. She had a heart attack from fighting for her life to get from under him. It's been very tough. This has changed our whole life. After that, I wasn't able to see her for 30 days because she was in the hospital under domestic violence care. Her name was not even listed as a patient. They have a special program. So I wasn't even able to give her a hug or see her for 30 days. 30 days when I was finally able to see her from when she was going from the hospital into a therapy program. I gave her a hug and told her I loved her, and she said to me, "Dad, yeah, I know you love living there, but we have got to make a move. We can't be there anymore. I won't be able to sleep. I can't live there." It's been so traumatic. The hospital diagnosed her with PTSD and told her, I mean, she's having trouble sleeping and everything. She stays at friends' house when she can. When she can't, she stays at a hotel. She tries not to sleep there. She has some, but I'm there with the 3 children and the great-grandchild.
And Susan, you in support of this project?
Oh, yes, because my daughter can't sleep in that house. She said to me, "Dad, we've got to do something. It's time we move on." So Hydro-X was interested, and I said, well, let's see if we can move forward with it. Because
they're interested in purchasing your home, is
right,
that what you're saying?
Right. And we basically, we've got to get out of there because, this has been so traumatic on my daughter. Praise God, Rockdale Hospital and the therapy people were very good to her. She's back to work. She's working full-time again for Cracker Barrel as a general manager. She's the top manager. And she's back full-time. She couldn't get tonight off to come here. She wished she could. She said, "Dad, you do your best." And I take care of those 3 kids and that great-grandchild, and I do the best I can, and, we're getting by. And she has no permanent heart damage. So we have good news and bad news. But And he is in jail,
Very good.
and he will be in jail for many years.
We commend you for being the father, the grandfather, and the great-grandfather that you are. And certainly that was a very touching story that you shared with us. So I do appreciate you. I want to just, and also your service to the country too.
Well, thank you.
As a veteran, I heard all of what you said.
Right.
Yes, sir. Well, Commissioners, do you all have any questions or comment for the gentleman?
No, I know Paul and I know his daughter.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Director Johnson.
Yes, sir. Since there are 15 minutes remaining, the applicant would like to respond to some of the questions and comments that the residents had. Johnny Struthers.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, good night.
All that.
My name's Johnny Strother. I'm employed by HydroX. I'm the Director of Business Development Civil Construction. Give you a little background on HydroX. We started the company in April 2019. We bought the property on the corner of Lester and Plunkett, 7.62 acres, closed on in October 2019. I manage the construction, civil design, architectural, civil construction, and the vertical building construction of our facility. It is our corporate headquarters. We employ 148 people across 8 states. We chose to build our corporate headquarters in Rockdale County. We are a sister company to Southeast Connections. Like I said, we employ 148 people across 8 states. There are approximately 23 people working out of our corporate location. During the construction of the building and when we're finishing up the civil construction, I met with Mr. Goodsell on site along with 2 members of the 8 officers of the HOA at Royal Lakes. And they had concerns about visibility from their entrance and just what we're going to be doing there. We met on site, we looked at erosion control measures, we looked at the pond, and we talked about the visibility. And I agreed to move the fence, the chain link fence along the frontage of Lester, which is across from Royal Lakes, move it back off the back of the right of way and raise grade so we could get that fence up higher and limit their visibility. I also agreed to purchase and pay for a windscreen to go on that fence to further shield that visibility, to help their concerns about what they were going to see coming and going in and out of their entrance. Did all that at our cost. The plantings and stuff along the right-of-way of Lester are per the county requirements. We want to be good. We want to be good neighbors. I mean, I tried to do that with Mr. Goodsell up front when I talked with them during the construction. I called him when we made this application for rezoning on the property, told him what we're doing and the reason why we're after rezoning. And I understand Mr. Goodsell's position. I developed nearly 1,000 lots in Rockdale County from the early 2000s to 2010. So I've been in the development business. I understand his concerns. I understand the resident concerns when it comes to property values. But I would point out that the property directly across from Royal Lake subdivision was zoned commercial in 1984, before this development started. So you have to take the good with the bad. When you build a subdivision across from industrial property, you need to understand that when you start that development. But I understand the concerns with property values. The reason we're asking for, we had this application before the county is we want to expand to Mr. Sousey's 3 acres to our rear, starting with repurposing his home for office space. We'll remodel that inside and out. We would probably have 6 to 8 people working in that office regularly. We utilize the existing driveway Mr. Sousey has now. The question came up about what size vehicles, the same size vehicles that come and go out of Royal Lakes every day. Pickup trucks and cars. The same personally owned vehicles and company vehicles, but the same light duty type vehicles will be coming and going out of that driveway that currently exists. The other purposes for the expansion of the property is additional parking for some of our trucks now, storage for equipment, material, and that's pretty much the extent of what we want to utilize the property for right now, as far as the application for the use of this property. I do want to address the concerns about the landscaping along the frontage of Lester. And I'm assuming that's where they're talking about, the residents' concerns about the maintenance of the landscaping. As I explained in the last hearing, the ground covering is love grass. This is its first full growing season. You don't mow love grass in the summertime. If you need to mow it, it's in the wintertime when it's dormant, and you don't cut it down to the ground. It's a DOT spec'd ground stabilizing vegetation. It does, like, it looks a little unruly right now, I'll give you that, okay? But it's growing. This is first growing season. This fall, we can cut that down a little bit and maintain that a little bit better. But I still contend, if the right-of-way was better maintained, our landscaping would look better. You know, it's hard to see our landscaping for the trees and the vegetation that's grown up within the county right-of-way. The county right-of-way has not been maintained on either of our frontages in over 2 years. We paid out of our pocket to have the frontage on Lester mulch. And when I say mulch, we didn't put mulch down. We had a mulching head come in there and mulch the right-of-way along Lester. That's the only maintenance that's been done in over 2 years. We paid for that. I understand the concerns about the maintenance. We had our landscaping company that takes care of our maintenance out a week or so ago, and they sprayed the perimeter outside the fence, and we'll do the best we can to keep up with it. That's really all I have about what we're trying to do and the reason we're applying for the rezoning. And we did initially make the concession, because initially on our application, the drawing with our application, we showed a second driveway coming onto this property off of Lester. But that was going to be ingress only. So we compromised, and that's fine. If the big trucks need to access that property to deliver something or pick up something, they can come and go off of our entrance on Plunkett. The reason we want to maintain the access to Lester, I mean, quite frankly, who would buy a piece of property with county frontage and then give up that frontage, regardless of what the purpose is for the property? We need to be able to access the future office space that we're going to remodel from Lester to do that, to remodel it. Right now, from our property, you have to cut pine trees down to get to the house to remodel it if you use the access from Plunkett. So to start off with, in advancement LDP, we'd like to be able to access the existing structure from Lester on the existing driveway to repurpose that building for office space, remodel inside and out. Are there any more questions? You have?
So you would like to purchase the home, repurpose it for an office.
That's correct.
You'd like to redo the driveway so that you have access to that building in and out of, on Lester Road.
Just for the standard use light duty vehicles, pickup trucks and cars, personally owned vehicles and company trucks.
Because all this says is for ingress only for their trucks, and it doesn't really define light trucks or pickup trucks or whatever that is.
The concession we made in the zoning hearing was that our hydrovac trucks would not be accessing the property from Lester Road. That was the reason for us having the second drive added on the application drawing that we submitted, because quite frankly, our big trucks couldn't use the driveway that exists. It's designed for standard light duty vehicles. So it's where we've conceded that, look, we're just not going to bring the big trucks in off of Lester. We don't need to add the second driveway, nor do we need the buffer variance to accommodate that driveway. So the frontage will not be changed for what we want to do. And as far as visibility from the neighbors across the street in Royal Oaks, their backyards, the topo on this property from the right-of-way of Lester probably comes up 40 feet, maybe 60, and then it drops back off. The structure there sits on the high point. Whatever activity we'll be doing will not take place between the existing structure and the right-of-way of Lester. We're not going to have people, vehicles, cars, material stored, any of that. It's going to be from the structure back, which is directly rear of our existing property. We won't do anything between the existing house Mr. Silas lives now in the right-of-way of Lester. And it's got some trees on it. We don't have a problem with supplementing and planting more trees down there and creating more buffer. That's not a problem at all.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Commissioner? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Johnson?
That concludes all the comments, public comments in the hearing for that particular item. We can now move on to the next.
Yeah, I think we're going to experience a little transition here and let that take place. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming out this evening, and we certainly do appreciate your patience. Thank you so much.
Okay, all right, next item is item H, 4711 Highway 20 Southeast and 905 and 0 Bell Road, Southeast Conyers, Georgia. Two items. First is future land use map case 2021-08, a request to amend the future land use map to redesignate property from medium density residential to commercial. Second is a request to rezone property from AR agricultural residential to C1 local commercial. The parcel is 2.61 acres. The owner is ARP Holdings. Agent is Bethany Lavigno, PC. There will be 2 public hearings and 2 motions required for this item. Purpose is development of a convenience store with a gasoline station. Details relocating an existing convenience store / gas station across Bell Road, and then 2 separate zoning categories, and as inconsistent future land use exists that obviously mitigate the need as well. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions, and the Planning Commission is also recommending approval with conditions. Here we have an area. Again, the red is indicating where we are currently downtown, and the green is the 905 Bell Road South location. Planning Commission staff both recommended approval with conditions of the request to amend the future land use map to redesignate the property from medium density residential to commercial and to rezone from AR to C1. A couple of items or conditions. A traffic impact study required unless determined otherwise by our DOT, and if it will be determined by the DOT, it shall be shown on the forthcoming LDP, Land Use Disturbance Permit. If any type of gasoline station is to be on this property, the location of the fuel pumps shall not be within 100 feet of a residential district or adjacent to a residential district. The LDP shall show the exact measurements. The property shall be recombined through the fast-track plat process so that the septic field and any stormwater management ponds are on the same parcel as the structures in which they serve. All right, this concludes the actual staff portion of this presentation. We do have the applicant here if you have any questions for her.
Isn't this something that we've already
Yes, ma'am. This came up, it was approved, and it was withdrawn by the applicant for some personal reasons. Right.
Any questions for the applicant, commissioners?
No.
And we do have one, I'm sorry.
I remember this property, and I remember the property next to it.
Yes, ma'am. If there are no questions, there is one individual that signed up for public comment. So.
Okay, let's keep it moving.
We do have and this is an opposition, a Linda Hannah.
Come on up, Ms. Hannah. And we appreciate your patience as well. You've been sitting out there all night
And I gotta
with
say,
the rest of us.
as a retired teacher, I'm loving all the visual aids.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Chairman, Nesbitt, Commissioners. My name is Linda Hannah, and I reside at 928 Bell Road. And I feel I really can't say to be in opposition because I feel like I'm just one person on Bell Road next to the gas station. Just recently, things have occurred. And it has to do with water management. So my concern is the new store is the watershed issue coming out of Georgia 20 would be a crisis for me because I am uphill from the driveways on the watershed down to Bell Road, resulting in rainwater spilling into my driveway. I have just learned a lot of things as of July 10th was a Saturday that we had an extreme rain almost all day. So, as a result of that rain, I had contractors working on a room. And this room, I needed floors replaced because of water damage that I have had in the past. I'm just learning that a lot of my water damage is from the existing store. I just learned this last week. The existing store, this is the water damage that happened on July 10th. Water in the room. Because I'm replacing floors, there was damage, there was mold and everything had to be removed. I did the appropriate thing. I had drains put in. And when this happened, I was devastated because of thousands of dollars I had paid for the drainage. So this was the water damage in the room where I was to have floors laid. The floors were supposed to be laid way before now, but that's the way God works. Because had the floors been laid, there would have been more damage to a new flooring. This new drain, which was installed, when this damage happened, I called the people out, so they came out and did some corrections. So this drain was a corrected drain, but because it was all flooded, it was like, it didn't do anything. July 11th, the next day, my contractor that should have been working on the house decided to dig this up, and all this water is here. I don't know if you can see. All the water is in that drain. And then there was another drain across from the driveway. This new French drain, water backed up. And then this is water before the drain of last week. So last week, a lot of people were out to correct this problem. I wasn't aware that the store that's currently there has water. The store is here, and there's a green patch. I had to have landscaping done, and so there's junipers, the old junipers, they're green because there's water that comes from the store. I never knew that. There was a resident that lived in the house prior to me. I can't remember his name. He died of cancer a few years ago, but he was telling my son that there was always problems with water coming into the driveway. But I couldn't, at that time, I couldn't understand what it meant. I'm thinking, water you can see. This is water that you do not see. The contractor told me, the manager of the company, Pro Cutters, told me that this is a constant drip. And you see this here, this is erosion from the water. This is in my driveway. I've had this type of erosion for years. I just didn't know. Water would sit in my driveway for 4 weeks sometimes. I just didn't know why. I just thought, that's just the way it is. And then water would get into the house. I've had 3 times that the water came into the house. Once, 2015. Again, 2018, after I had someone paint my house and put precautions in. Water came in. That's when I learned that you make sandbags. I thought you could buy them. I had to go to Ace Hardware and get the sandbags and call my son. We had to make sandbags for the back door. For that room. Now that's the same room. I'm trying to replace the floors now. I put drains. I spent thousands of dollars for a drain already. So you may say, well, what does this have to do with this? I'm just learning this. We're talking July 10th of this month, July 11th, looking at the water that's in the drain. And just, I've been informed that another store, the way I'm sitting, it will just, when the rainwater comes down, it would eventually just go into my driveway. So, and as I'm saying, this is erosion, and this has been cracked for years. I did a piece of a patch-up job in the 90s for this cement, but this is how it looks now. And if you notice, when I was making this poster today, you see this water line here? This is when this thing was sitting, because I'm a Toastmaster, I kept this to do Toastmaster work. This water line right here shows when this was in the same room when I had a flood. And that's 3.5 inches water depth. Here's 2.5 inches water line. So it's just my concern. When we were here, was it last year, for the gas station, it's bad enough it's going to be across the street. I think it's affecting my quality of life. And now that I'm learning about this water, it's just affecting me. When I called that company and I sent them a text and pictures, I just told them I'm tired, I'm depressed, and I feel like the answer for my problems is just for me to be dead, because if I'm not here, nobody would care, nobody would pay attention to me, and it wouldn't bother anyone, you know, if I wasn't here. But I know I have a lot to live for. I'm a grandmother, and I'm also an Air Force veteran, disabled Air Force veteran, and a minister, and I know I shouldn't think this way, but I was just feeling like, am I important? Does it matter? I'm just one person on Bell Road that this affects this way. And I just found this out. I had talked to Mr. Page. When I talked to you, none of this had happened. You know, when I talked to you, I asked you, I said, oh, well, are they going to have access now? I didn't know.
So, Ms. Hannah, so let me say this to you. I hear your pain and your conviction, and thank you so much. Certainly. Commissioners, do you all have any questions for Ms. Hannah? Okay. Ms. Hannah, thank you so much.
All right.
And appreciate your presentation tonight.
Yeah, and I probably left some things off.
That's okay.
Some bowl and,
We're very familiar with this this case here.
Yeah.
All right. All right, Director Johnson.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
With the small amount of time I have left, the applicant would like to respond to some of these comments and questions.
Okay, come right on up.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Bethany Livigno for the applicant. I'll be very brief. I know I want to get out of here as much as y'all do. And this project doesn't have anything to do with Plunkett or Lester, so less opposition. You know, when this came through the first time before it was withdrawn by my client, the store actually faced Bell Road. And instead, based on, I believe it was the same lady that had opposition last year, they reconfigured the store because she was worried about a lot of traffic on Bell Road with the store being faced that way. So they have, based on her comments last year, reconfigured the store to face Highway 20. And as far as stormwater runoff, I believe, and I could be wrong, but she lives behind the other store. So this site is angled, the part on 20, it dips back and then kind of comes down. So any storm, just the way the grading is, any stormwater that's going to run off or any rain or anything is going to go back and down. It's not going to go back over Bell Road. That's just the way the grade is. And, you know, I believe she said she's lived here since the 90s. I would hate to have her problems with her house. I really feel for her. But Mr. Page has never received a complaint at his store that's existing there, and he's had it the same way for 10 to 15 years. So his intent is just to close down, not close down the convenience, well, close down the gas station that's across Bell Road, turn that into, expand the liquor store that's there, and then move the gas station to this location. There's no point in him competing against himself with having 2 gas stations. And the surrounding properties are all commercial. The one adjacent is a fruit stand. His, of course, across the street is commercially zoned, and I believe there's a commercially zoned property across Highway 20 as well. So, if you have any questions.
I would be, I'm concerned on how the expansion of the liquor store would adversely affect her water retention problems now that we know.
So the expansion, the building's not expanding. None of the footprint, none of the parking lot, none of that's going to be expanded. It's just closing down the convenience store and then changing that use, combining it with the liquor store that's already there. And he is going to do some exterior facade redo on that store because it does need some upgrades.
Okay, all right. Commissioner Williams? Any questions or concerns? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Director Johnson.
Okay. Next item. Next item is item I. We got to keep moving.
Thank you.
I feel like, I'll be right back. You know how you get home and you can relax a little? That's how I feel. Y'all know it's my bedtime, 10:30.
You don't want to leave here.
Wait a minute.
Just hang tight.
Okay.
Is there anybody else signed up to speak tonight?
No. The rest of these, we have no more comments.
Applicant is here for the last property case.
So I was going to say, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, if it pleases the board, the director could read through.
It pleases the board.
Okay.
I know exactly what you're going to say. Absolutely, I support it.
Information attached to the record.
There's so much drama, like.
So you like Lifetime, don't you?
I don't watch Lifetime. You know what? I tell everybody my job. I have enough Lifetime.
Yeah, you live it.
Right.
Okay, let's. I think based on what you have remaining anyway, I think.
Who's the she's the applicant for what?
Not for this particular one.
Okay. Rock and roll, sir.
Okay. Next item, item I, 2720 Salem Road, Southeast Conyers, Georgia, 30013. Rezoning case 2021-13, a request to rezone property from mixed use development with conditions to mixed use development without conditions. Site is 2.28 acres. Owner is the city of Conyers. The applicant is Rockdale County. This particular item will require one hearing and one motion. Purpose is to unify a zoning district for a property owned by the city that was split zoned in the past. The entire parcel is 8.369 acres. 6.089 acres is zoned mixed use without conditions. 2.28 acres of the property is zoned mixed use with conditions. This will bring the entire property into a consistent zoning category. Staff, as well as the Planning Commission, recommended approval for this site.
Do we know what they want to do with it? No. Okay. I'll be quiet.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Next item we have is item J, 2397 Irish Drive Southeast, Conyers, Georgia. Rezoning case 2021-14. A request to rezone property from R1 Single Family Residential to M1 Limited Industrial. The site is 1.63 acres. The owner is Julia Kirkland. Public hearing and a motion is required here. Purpose is to allow for an automobile sales lot, and staff recommends approval, as well as the Planning Commission. And we do have the applicant here. Do you have any questions or comments?
Any comments from Ms. Kirkland? Okay, all right, no, you're good.
You're good.
All right, go ahead, Director.
Okay. All right, now, we're moving into the next few items will be text amendments. The first text amendment is item K, text case number 2021-15 for bakeries, coffee shops, and donuts. Staff was approached by a business owner who wants to open donut shops and or bakeries. However, our Unified Development Ordinance was not clear that they will be permitted uses. Planning Commission recommended approval, and as you see now, we will be able to allow these retail bakeries, snack, non-alcoholic beverage bars, coffee shops, and donuts in M1, as well as several other zoning categories. Okay?
Okay.
The next item is text case number 2021-16. One principal use authorized per lot. Again, staff was approached by a business owner who wanted to construct multi-tenant buildings and have multiple uses on their property. However, this section only permits multi-tenant buildings in the OPB, MUR, and mixed-use zoning districts. There are currently multi-tenant buildings that would be considered to be non-conforming. The Planning Commission therefore recommended approval. Okay. Next item, item M, text case number 2021-17, rental and leasing of goods and equipment. Staff was approached by a business that rents commercial and industrial machinery. Additionally, staff discovered other rental and leasing uses. However, the Unified Development Ordinance was not clear that they were permitted uses. Planning Commission therefore recommended approval for this particular item. And here you see.
Is this the one with for the trucks? Like, wait, never mind.
No, this is Sunbelt leasing.
Good evening, Terry Petrie, Zoning Administrator. So this is in regards to commercial industrial vehicles or equipment, like what Sunbelt Rentals provides and their competitors.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
All right.
All righty. Next item, item N. Text case number 2021-18, relationship to the comprehensive plan. Staff was approached by developers who want to construct single-family detached residential subdivisions under the regulations of the collaborative residential subdivision and/or conservation subdivision zoning districts. However, our section 202-6 requires them to also seek a future land use amendment for medium and high-density residential. Additionally, conservation subdivision development is already permitted in both future land use categories. Staff believes that the other conservation/collaborative zoning districts should not require a future land use amendment if the property is already planned for residential. Additionally, there are two future land use categories that need to be revised to match those in the comprehensive plan. The Planning Commission recommended approval for this amendment.
Okay.
Okay, here you see the table. All right, next item is item, text case number 2021-19, accessory dwelling units. Again, staff was approached multiple times by prospective and current property owners regarding accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, in residential zoning districts. However, our Unified Development Ordinance restricts them to certain non-residential zoning districts. Staff believes that these amendments will help provide a variety of housing choices to ensure housing for individuals and families of diverse incomes and age groups as stated in our comprehensive plan. Staff and the Planning Commission recommended to continue this to the August public hearings. There's more research and we'll do some more due diligence, so this item will be continued for August.
Well, I think this is a great idea.
And it's connected to, you know what it's connected to, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, item P is a final item almost, let's see. Yeah, this is 2021-20, cottage homes or tiny houses. Staff has been approached multiple times by prospective and current property owners, residents, regarding whether they can live in a cottage home or tiny home in the county. Again, our Unified Development Ordinance does not permit them at all. Staff believes that these amendments will help to provide a variety of housing choices to ensure housing for individuals and families, again, of diverse income and age groups, as stated in our comprehensive plan. Again, this one will also, was recommended to continue in August to, for more research to the August public hearings. Let's see, and I think this concludes all the items that we have for the, this agenda for tonight.
You think?
Can we go home?
I am certain that this concludes the agenda for tonight's zoning hearing for July 26th. Are there any questions?
Commissioners, are there any questions or comments?
Absolutely not.
You've done a fantastic job, you and your staff, Director Johnson. Thank you to the deputy that stuck out through this marathon meeting tonight. We certainly appreciate your presence. And no executive session. That concludes this meeting is adjourned.
We would not have put that motion on the floor.
At all.